Alrighty, good evening everybody. Welcome to the stream. Let me just make sure all my settings are right. Looks like they are. Let me transition over. Yeah, I said let's get started twice because I had a bit of a blip with YouTube. Restream, I don't know what's wrong with it, basically. I tried to set up a YouTube event which I already had the streams all scheduled, and I tried to link this particular stream to Restream, and it works until you refresh the page. Then it stops working, and the only way to get it working again is to delete the link between Restream and YouTube and put a new one in. But putting a new one in creates a random live stream event on my YouTube channel, which I'm not sure if it's publicly viewable or not, but I can see it, and the fact that I can see it bothers me. Um, so I went onto YouTube and deleted that extra event. But what that then does, I think we're working. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me. What that then does is make it so that Restream can't connect to YouTube. So I have to have this fake event up for the duration of the stream. Otherwise, Restream will lose connection to YouTube. And that seems like a really, really dumb workaround in order to make this actually work. So I might look at alternatives. But in the meantime, I do like Restream. I think it's a very good design. I think it's really easy to use. It is relatively easy to set up, despite what I've just said. So I want it to work. I want it to be the thing that I use. But at the same time, it drives me up the bloody wall when things don't work as intended. But anyway, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Kurt, in the YouTube chat as well. Welcome back to Football Manager 2019. Now you're probably wondering, Mark, why aren't you playing Football Manager 2020? Well, if you read the description for the stream, you'll know the answer to this already. But basically, Hatfield Town is who I like to play as on Football Manager every season. I always try and take them up as high as we can. This time out, we're in the Championship. We haven't quite been able to make it into the Premier League yet, but you never know. That might change. But yeah, there's a guy called Dan who every year he goes on to the editor, the what is it? The external editor? I can't remember what it's called. It used to be called the editor, but then they added an in-game editor, so I suppose it's the out-game editor these days. But he goes on there and he adds every single team in every single league, or as many as he can, in England from the Vanarama. Is it still called Vanarama? I'm not sure if it is, but the National League North and South, right the way down to as low as he can get. So this year he's going down to level 20. To put that in context, Premier League is level 1, Championship is level 2, League 1 level 3, so on and so forth. It does get a little bit confusing when you get down into the non-league though, because the National League main is level 5, and then the National League North-South is level 6, and then that branches out. Level 7 is like 5 or 6 leagues that all then go up into the National Leagues North and South. Then you've got like the Isthmian leagues, and then it gets really confusing, and eventually you end up in the senior leagues, and there's hundreds of those. So I'm a big fan of Dan's work. Obviously, I use his database every year. I try and link to it at every opportunity that I have. But this year there's been some complications with the editor and Football Manager. There was a lot of bugs and glitches and things weren't quite working as expected. So the database has taken longer to be released this year than normal. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I know it's worth waiting for. However, that does mean I was kind of hoping actually, because Dan put up something on the forums yesterday saying that he might be able to release 2 files this weekend. One of which did go up yesterday, but it was the up to level 11 without the League Cups. So Hatfield are in level 10. So I could in theory download that version and play it, but I kind of want the League Cups as well. I just like that extra bit of realism to be able to play in all the League Cups, because in the non-league I think there's like 3 or 4 cups per season, and that's not including the FA Cup. There's quite a lot. There's the senior cups, and then there's individual league based cups. There's all kinds of things. It's actually really, really cool. There's lots of chances to win some kind of silverware. And then yeah, you can get into the FA Vase, the FA Trophy, the FA Cup, whichever one it happens to be that you qualify for. In fact, I mean, all teams, once you're, I think it's 3 seasons old, all teams technically qualified to play in the qualifiers for the FA Cup. Not everyone gets to the first round. But yeah, that's the reason why things are slow, and that's also the reason why we're playing on 2019, not 2020. I did have a beta save as Stevenage on 2020, and we could have perhaps played that instead. But really, at this point, I'm just waiting for the Hatfield save because I've got the kits all ready to go. And in fact, if I go back on the club screen really quickly, these are the 2D kits that we'll be using in Football Manager 2020. And then when we get into our first match, which will be momentarily, you'll see the 3D kits. And I'm a big fan of the 3D kits. I think they look awesome. Although having said that, the third kit, I was experimenting with different designs for the third kit. And the one that I settled on was a checkerboard pattern. In fact, I'll show you it again. It's a checkerboard pattern here. Now, in the 3D kit, the sleeves are different colours. For those of you that don't know, this is the XVI colours, the yellow and the blue. In fact, there's the XVI logo in the middle, and then there's my logo on the other two shirts. I really like the away kit as well. That gradient goes from blue to red on the top stripe, and then blue to red here on the bottom stripe. Looks awesome, and the home kit as well. Mwah! C'est magnifique. You'll see a bigger version of this in a second. You'll be able to admire its beauty. But yeah, the third kit, I tried this checkerboard pattern, and the 3D kit looks really good, but the 2D kit looks like dog shit. So what I might actually do is, because I made all these on Photoshop, and it's the first time I've made all my own kits, 2D and 3D, which is why, you know, some things don't quite stack up. But I was experimenting with different gradients and color replacements and things like that. And I might just use one of the preset patterns for this. And see how that goes. So I think there's like tree branches and flowers and things like that. So to actually have like a flower effect on the front of the shirt, that might look quite cool. Good evening, James. Did you know that there is a UEFA European Championship which is basically above the Premier League? Are you talking about the Europa League and the Champions League? Because yes, I'm very familiar with those. Again, this might be a culture shock to people who are used to my channel. Obviously, I've played Football Manager in the past, and I've played FIFA a lot, and I've played PES right back at the start as well. But people always put me down as like the rail guy, the train guy, the transport guy. I actually like football more than I like railways a lot of the time. And today I am a massive football fan, because for those of you that don't know, I'm a Stevenage fan and I'm a Newcastle fan. And both my teams won today. Stevenage won for the first time in, I think it was like 2 months in the league. And we won 4-0, and it was away from home. So I haven't actually seen any of the goals yet, or anything like that, but I'm very much looking forward to watching the highlights. Because as I said, it's been such a long time since we last scored a goal even, never mind won a match. And then Newcastle, 94th minute winner against Chelsea. Always happy to see something like that happening. Sorry Dylan if you are watching. My mum's a Chelsea fan as well, so I've already done the apologies. But yeah, if you're referring to the Champions League, James, I'm very much aware of the Champions League. And I know that there's the third one. Is it called the European Championship Conference or something? The new competition that's coming in, I think, from next season, which goes between... well, actually, it goes underneath the Europa League. It's like a third European competition. I'm really intrigued to see how that will work. I quite like the idea. There's a lot of football purists who are against the idea of it. But I think it's a good thing. Very much like VAR. I think VAR is a very good thing. It's just slowly being phased in, and because people these days have the patience of a very short fuse, it gets a bad rap. Right, so this is one of the 1K streams, so I have got some questions here that I will be answering throughout the stream. We're going to be playing for about 2 hours roughly, 2 and a bit. I might go a little bit past 10. Basically, I want to finish before 10:30 because that's when Match of the Day's on, and I really want to see that late winner again. So it'll probably be like 10 past 10 maybe where we stop. If we're in the middle of a match, of course, I will continue to the end. I'll try not to say this is the last match though, because every time I've said that when I'm playing Football Manager, I end up losing that particular match. So I'll try and avoid that if at all possible. But yeah, the first question, I actually answered this on Thursday. But I'll answer it again, because again, different audiences. Sometimes people don't watch particular streams because of particular games. But yeah, the first question is, where did you come closest to wanting to quit, and why didn't you quit? So this is to do with, obviously, YouTube. I've been going for six and a half years now, believe it or not. Started in July 2013. July 22nd, 2013 to be precise. If you do go on my channel, you'll see, I think, 2 videos from 2010. I think one might have been from 2011, thinking about it. That technically wasn't the start of M4J, or Majeffries as it was known back then. Those were just, I had a YouTube account, I had a video that I wanted to upload, so I just put it on that account and then kept it when I started doing this. Although that thing, it's called That's a Wrap, and I did it for a school project, and I've kind of been sitting on it since, because I think it's quite, I think there's something there, basically. I think there's something there, and it might not fit into M4J gaming, but it might fit into M4J somewhere else. So sit tight on that one. But yeah, my channel officially started in July 2013, so 6.5 years, and there's been a few times where I've considered quitting. There's a few reasons that have led to those, but the biggest one, the one where I thought, okay, I'm done now, was 2018. It was either late 2018 or early 2019 when I ended up having to disable comments on my channel. And originally it was just going to be disabling comments on certain videos, but then I just got pissed off to the point where I disabled comments on the entire channel. No one could comment on streams, on videos, on the community page, nothing. It was a complete blackout. And the reason was, a lot of people on YouTube, social media in general brings out the worst in people, but YouTube comment sections, I wasn't getting death threats or racist remarks or sexist remarks or anything like that, so I do consider myself to be quite fortunate in that respect. But what I was getting was entitled people telling me what to do. And it's not like a boss telling an employee, you know, get this paperwork done by 5, I want it on my desk, blah blah blah. It wasn't anything like that. This is literally, I upload a Cities in Motion 2 video and someone comments saying, you shouldn't be playing this, you should be playing FIFA. Or, in fact, one of the best ones was, I think it was a Football Manager video, and someone commented saying, do pack openings on FIFA. And, you know, I replied to it saying, quite calmly, oh, you know, I don't do Ultimate Team. It's not really something I've ever done on the channel. Like, you know, I was really polite about it. I didn't shut him down necessarily, just explained quite calmly that that's not really the sort of thing I do. And the reply I got was, do pack openings. So, you know, people don't listen. People clearly don't listen. And the whole lifetime of my channel, I've had people trying to order me about and tell me what to do. And I hate it. You know, authority in general, I'd say I've had a love-hate relationship with. But people on YouTube trying to claim they know about YouTube when they don't, that is where I draw the line. So people were telling me how to run my channel, and back in the day I used to fall for it. I used to go, okay, you want a Cities in Motion video, I'll give you a Cities in Motion video, and then no one watched it. Not even the person who wanted it watched it. So I learnt my lesson quite quickly there, which is, if more than one person suggests something, then maybe you should do it. But if one person suggests something, then save it, don't do it, because chances are you'll just waste your time, and even the person who demanded it won't be interested, because you won't have done it to their exact specification. So yeah, the closest I came to quitting was last year, not last year, 2018, because I'd had enough of people telling me how to run my channel, people pointing out really small errors and mistakes. Like, I could understand if I uploaded an hour-long video and there was no audio. And I would understand if, you know, it was just a green screen instead of the video. But what I don't understand is if the audio is slightly out of sync, like 0.1 of a second out of sync. Hardly enough to notice. Let me start this match and I'll continue my rant. I normally do like an introduction to the squad and stuff, but tonight I just want to play matches and experiment with tactics and things like that. Really flex my footballing muscles, as it were. But yeah, people just kept being negative. Like, no one said anything positive about the videos. It was always, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you should have done this. And these are people who, normally when someone comments on one of my videos, I kind of check their credentials, as it were. Let me just turn the volume down on the game, because I can tell it's going to be loud. Like, I check credentials. I've always done that. It's kind of like source checking. If someone if you're writing a university dissertation, for example, you don't just go on Wikipedia and copy and paste quotes from people. You kind of do a bit of reading and make sure it's a legitimate thing. That's what I do on YouTube. You know, if someone suggests something like, have you considered upgrading your microphone? Then I kind of check out, who is this person? Why are they saying this? And all the negative comments I was getting for, must have been about 2 or 3 years. Very rarely did I get a positive comment. You know, when I first started uploading Cities in Motion 2, I used to get comments like, really kind of cheesy but very appreciative comments like, how does this channel not have more subscribers, or keep up the good work, this video was awesome. And it sounds like a lot of backpatting when I say that, but you know, genuinely you get a good feeling, particularly when you're new to YouTube and you don't really know what you're doing. To have that kind of reinforcement, you do feel good about it. So I had that for the first 2 years, and then I took a break. I had something happen in my life. I took a break from YouTube, and the whole time I was off, people kept commenting saying, when are the videos coming back? So that to me sounded like, okay, there's a demand, so I need to supply that demand. So after a while, I felt like my break was over, and I put out an announcement saying, you know, videos will be back this week. Looking forward to chatting to you guys again. And I lost a lot of subscribers during the time I was off, but I didn't feel too worried about it, because I thought, you know, if I had subscribers, I lost them, I can easily get them back or find some new ones. And yeah, I uploaded the first video again after the break, and nobody watched it. So I thought, okay, maybe it's because it's the first one back, no problem. So I uploaded another one the next week, kept to my schedule, by the way. I didn't change the schedule or anything. I had a schedule and I kept to it. Uploaded the second one, no one watched it. And then I think it was week 3 or 4, I just got a comment saying, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing something else? And I actually, that was the Cities in Motion 2 series that was on, and I killed the series that day. I thought, I can't be bothered. What's the point? What's the point in putting, you know, 12 hours into making a video if the first comment you get is, you shouldn't be doing this? So I started making videos on other things, OpenTTD, started streaming, you know, Space Engineers, Minecraft, 7 Days to Die, things like that. Payday 2, which I really want to get back into, because I used to love playing that game. But yeah, this last incident, the one that made me turn off comments, was, as I said, 3 years straight. It was just negativity, and it was toxic. It wasn't healthy. My mental state was getting worse and worse and worse because of it. And people don't realise. People are ignorant. People are obnoxious. And, you know, sometimes it's genuine naivety. People just don't realise how taxing being a content creator can be. Some people are just bastards and will say the first thing that comes into their head, even though they know it's not a very nice thing to say. And I felt more like my channel was creeping into the latter. People were just being bastards. People thought because they were subscribed to me, they could tell me what to do. And when I went and checked their channel and saw that they had no credentials related to YouTube, you know, I kind of lashed out a bit and thought, well, you know, these people don't have the right to tell me what I'm doing right or wrong when they've not been there themselves. Sometimes my audio is slightly out of sync because I had to rush to get the video done on time. Sometimes I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning, despite the fact I had lectures the next morning at 9 a.m. because I felt like I had to get a video done. And you do get the pressure. Even, you know, YouTubers with 10 million plus subs, they still feel the pressure of, if I miss an upload, it will cost me. It's a really high pressure job. And I'm not trivializing other high pressure jobs, believe me. I know there are far worse things that I could be doing right now. But it is stressful, and there is a lot of pressure involved, and a lot of it comes from modern day society and people just being short patience, short fuse. You know, they have to have content immediately or they lose interest. And even now, you know, since I hit 1,000 subscribers, the highest I've ever gotten is 1,010, but the week after I got to 1,000, I dropped to 995 again. And I think it's because the week I hit 1,000, or the week after I hit 1,000, I took a week off because that was my scheduled week off, and people just unsubscribed. Like they couldn't even wait a week, even though they knew that that week break was coming up. They couldn't wait a week to watch videos again, so they unsubscribed. And I said it on Thursday on the OpenTTD stream, and I'll say it again. Those people can piss right off, because I'd rather they didn't watch my content anyway. I'm very lucky to have loyal fan base who do turn out for the streams. And I see Georgia here tonight. You don't like football, but you're here anyway, and I appreciate that. I really do. And it's always nice to see the same people coming back. And you know, as I said, my subscriber count, apart from that one blip, has been relatively consistent since I hit 1K. Even though I took some time off over Christmas, my sub count didn't actually drop, and I was really surprised by that, because normally in the past it has done. So yeah, I was really happy with that. I'm very grateful. But yeah, turning off comments, that was the best thing I could have done on my channel. Even, you know, in comparison, uploading my first video should be the milestone, like the best moment of my channel after hitting 1K. But actually turning off comments was the best thing to happen to my YouTube channel, because it just meant I was making stuff that I wanted to make, and people either watched it or they didn't. And I know I've said things like it would be nice to get more views, and I know I did the whole you can only like a video once campaign to try and get more people to like my stuff and not just have the same people watching the videos over and over again to try and drive up the view count. And you know, I think to an extent that kind of worked. I got more unique people to watch the videos, and I felt like, yeah, all of it, some of it might have sounded a bit intense, some of it might have sounded a bit aggressive, but it was all coming from the same viewpoint of, I need genuine stats now. The channel's old enough and it's mature enough where it needs to have genuine stats. So I used to watch my own videos back in the day. You know, I used to go into a lecture hall at uni, turn on the PC and just queue up some of my videos and run them while I was in a lecture. I don't do that anymore. Since I hit, I think it's 250 subscribers, I stopped doing it because I didn't feel like I needed to anymore. And I still stand by the idea of, if you want to watch my stuff over and over again for whatever reason, you're more than welcome to. But don't feel like you have to drive up the view count, because that's not really a good thing to do. Particularly when a channel is monetized, it's more damaging than it is good. But yeah, that's a really long answer to a very basic question of when did I come closest to quit. The reason I didn't quit was because I started enjoying it again. And that's why I say turning off comments was the best thing I could have done, because it cut out the negativity. It also cut out the positivity, but because there wasn't any at that point anyway, it just cut out the negativity. I didn't have entitled dicks telling me what to do. You know, if I wanted to make a Cities in Motion video and upload it on a Monday, I would do that. I tried to stick to my schedule as best I could, but I felt like I had more liberty. I could miss a week if I wanted to. If I was ill for whatever reason, I didn't feel as bad by not uploading that day. And it was a game changer, literal game changer. I saw a question in the chat as well just now. For the week after each 1K stream, why do you make it private and not unlisted? You already post the links to the streams. Yeah, because I post the links to the streams so people can watch it live. And the reason I posted it, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks in advance, was so people could put reminders and things like that. Also, if you go on the website, you'll see that the events are on there, and they've got Google Calendar links attached to each event. So you can actually, if you've got an Android phone like I have, for example, you can go on the mobile version of the website and you download the calendar file, and it will automatically install, and you'll get a notification when the stream's about to start. One thing, if you know me, if you've watched my videos throughout the years, you'll know I love automation. So little things like that, it just makes my life so much easier. The reason I make things private rather than unlisted is by making them private, I can queue them up to publish at a certain time. So I use YouTube's scheduler. Oh, good save, keeper. Offside, but good save anyway. So that's the real reason why it's private and not scheduled, is because I schedule them to publish at a certain time. And it basically means if I'm at the house for whatever reason, or if my internet goes down unexpectedly, the video will still publish at the time that I wanted it to. And because of the whole system I've got set up now, my YouTube is linked to my Reddit, my Twitter, and my Facebook. So as soon as a video goes live, it automatically gets dripped through to all the other social media. I actually have Restream linked to my Discord now as well, so you guys might have seen that. I don't actually know if it posted or not. Oh, it did. Yeah, so I'll be using that a lot more often too. Apparently I've joined the restream Discord channel as well. I don't remember doing that, but I guess that's part of the thing when you sign up for it. But yeah, I'll be using these sorts of things a lot more now. So yeah, the reason it's private and not unlisted is so that I can schedule it, and the reason that I've scheduled them all and not just let them go up as soon as they're finished processing is just as George has said in the chat there. This week was always going to be a weird week, because what was meant to happen was there was supposed to be 5 Outer Worlds videos, which all did get published, and then there was meant to be a Planet Coaster video on the Wednesday, a Euro Truck video on the Friday. What else was there? There was meant to be something else on the Monday as well. I can't remember what it was now. But I just didn't. I ended up not having time to do all of that. So what I decided to do was scrap the Global Ventures and Euro Truck video for this week and upload them from tomorrow onwards. So it'll be Wednesday and Friday this week coming. And then all the streams, queue them up to go up this week. And actually I'll be changing the schedule slightly for the stream uploads, because the Outer Worlds, I actually finished the Outer Worlds this morning. I recorded the last video of the series. So I know now which day of the week the Outer Worlds will be finishing on. So I'll schedule the streams to start the day after the Outer Worlds finishes, because then it gives me a little bit more time to start thinking about what I'm going to replace the Outer Worlds with. So that's the reason why. It's a really long, convoluted explanation again, I know. I can write an essay to a simple question. I'm that kind of guy now. I used to, when I was at school, I used to embellish my answers, and then I was told to refine things for, you know, if you're writing in an exam, you kind of want to write the shortest amount possible. So I started doing that for a long time, and then I got to uni, and my dissertation, my original draft, was half of the word limit, I think. So I was told to embellish it again, and it ended up being twice the word limit, so I had to cut it down. And I've not been able to shake that off still. I'd still say way more than I need to. Are we still 0-0? Yes. You'll see me moaning about my Hatfield team at various points, because we just don't seem to score goals. You'll see the kit as well, by the way, the away kit. I think it's the best kit I've ever made, and I've only made like 4. But I'm very, very happy with it. But yeah, I didn't want to overload the channel. That's the simple answer, because you know, I've read a lot of guides about when should you upload videos and things like that, and I try not to read into that too much, because it's not quite the same with TV. TV, you have to schedule things at certain times. So, you know, if it's got swearing in, it has to go after the watershed. You have the prime time slots, which are like 5 to 7 PM, that kind of thing. YouTube doesn't really work like that. YouTube is, if someone's subscribed to you and they're desperately waiting for your content, the second it goes up, they'll watch it. But if you're watching a 2-hour video like these streams, and halfway through that video another one on my channel gets uploaded, which would have been the case, I've tried to schedule them all so that there's enough time to watch that video before the next one goes up, if there is another one that day. But like I said, now the Outer Worlds is wrapping up, I don't have to worry about that, because I can schedule it on a different day. But yeah, I've had that in the past where I've been watching a video on a channel, and you don't even notice that they've uploaded another one during that time. And it comes across a little bit spammy if you're just constantly pumping videos onto the channel in the same day. Even the biggest channels in the world don't really do that. They have a schedule, and they pretty much stick to it. So I just wanted to avoid that. These 1K streams, I want it to be where, even if you're not interested in the game, like, again, there's people here who aren't really interested in football but are here, hopefully you guys will be interested in the questions that I've been answering and the things that I've been talking about, because I like to have these open discussions with viewers and fans, friends, about the channel. What is this main bar at the bottom of the screen and the 5 bars in the summary screen? Are you talking about this bar here at the very bottom with text on it? Or are you referring to YouTube? I don't actually know what's on my YouTube thing right now. Yeah, if you're talking about this bar at the bottom, it's like a ticker, so it just keeps you updated as to what's going on. Some people play using the 2D engine rather than the 3D one, so this just tells you things like corners being won or free kick given away, that kind of thing. And then the rest of this, so like these are all the stats. If I pause the game for a second, you won't be able to see this one down at the bottom here because the text, the chat's covering it, bottom right corner, but I've got the league table down here, so I can see I'm currently in 14th place, and I've dropped below QPR, which isn't very good. Just above that is my assistant manager's feedback. Just above that is the body language of my players, so I know if one's looking a bit composed, not composed, or tired, I can sub them off. I feel like my match plan isn't working again. Up here I've got player condition and match rating, so again if someone's having a bad match or anything I can sub them off. Then I've got my formation, the opposition's formation, latest scores. So this kind of, if I'm chasing a league title or something, I like to have this up because it tells me what my rivals are doing. Latest updates, same reason. Match information, so I can see things like attendance. Why I'd want that, I don't really know. But referee, the weather. Again, I mean, the weather feature isn't really used much on here. Like, there's nothing... Maybe they'll add it in the future, but things like if you're kicking into the wind second half, keep the ball low, that kind of thing. That'd be really cool. Then I've got match overview, so, you know, I can see who's been booked for me or who's scored or who's been sent off. Same thing with the opposition. Match stats here, I won't go through them all, so, but yeah, so I can keep track of, do I have more possession? Am I giving the ball away a lot? Are my passes going through? Are my crosses, you know, getting onto someone's head? Focus of attacks, same thing. I can kind of keep an eye on what the team's doing. The radar here, and then the action zones at the bottom, which I very rarely use. But I had because I play on a 4K screen, I had space, so I thought, why not put that there? And in theory, I've got room for something else down here if I want it. I like stats. When I'm playing football games as well, I like stats. I like seeing. It's basically the same as on OpenTTD. I might watch the network for a bit just to make sure things are working. And that's kind of what I do here. I try and treat this game as realistically as possible, so I'm not constantly micromanaging the tactics while the game's playing out. And I actually have my match plans set up to do that, which I'll show you in a second, because it doesn't look like they're actually taking effect in this game. So I'm going to do some custom subs. Let's see, JK can play on the right, and then anyone else? Yeah, Luke Wright. He's having a bit of a shocker, so I'll bring him off as well. There we go. I really thought we were about to concede then. That wouldn't have been good. Go on, Cliff. Run, run, run. Right, yeah, that was that question answered. So the next one. Okay, this is a good one. After the 1K streams, are you willing to repurpose this channel to become a regular questions channel where you will take some of the questions from in your streams? Yes. Actually, before I answer that, does the enemy AI difficulty increase as you move up the leagues? Yes. Yeah, they do. So it's not really, there isn't a difficulty level in Football Manager. You can't put it on easy mode or hard mode. Although some people on the Football Manager Reddit say if you start as Man United or PSG or someone like that, then you're basically playing the game in easy mode. But yeah, the difficulty curve does go up. So as you get promoted, you can't just keep the same squad every season and expect to win. It does get harder. Plus you have things like players' age, and as they get older, their stats start to drop. You know, their fitness might not be as good, or if they get a serious injury, they might never fully recover from it. But one of the good things about Football Manager is a lot of people get put off by the stats and they think it's all really heavy strategy based and things like that, but a lot of it you can actually assign to your assistant manager, and it's kind of like the game plays itself for you and you can only do the bits that you're actually interested in doing. So if you don't want to do transfers, that's fine, you can get your director of football to do it, or your chairman. If you don't want to manage team talks like I don't, then that's fine, you can get your assistant manager to do it. Or in the case of match plans, you can set up scenarios where, say like you're losing by 1 goal in the 85th minute, what tactic do you play, what strategy do you play, what formation do you play, which players do you have out there, that kind of thing. And you can let the game effectively play itself. All you have to do is press the spacebar between matches and occasionally change your lineup if a player gets injured or suspended. So it's really good. I really like it. The match plans, I think, is one of the best additions in recent seasons. and Football Manager 2020, they've added shouts into the match plan as well. So up here you can motivate your players. So I tend to use get creative, show some passion, and demand more, which I'm going to do now. And you'll see that the body language on some of them at least has changed. But yeah, Football Manager 2020, they added shouts into the match plan, so I don't even have to do that anymore. I can literally let the game run itself. The only time I have to intervene during a match is if a player gets injured or sent off. So hopefully next year they even take that out of the equation and it'll do an auto sub. That would be awesome. But yeah, going back to the 1K question. So, this is a good test as to who's watching what on my channel and who's paying attention. Because we're into episode 13, I think. The next one that will go up on the channel is episode 14 of Euro Truck. And every single episode, since the very first one, I have said the same thing. I have said if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, or any conversation topics you'd like me to discuss, add them into the comment section down below that particular video, or head over to the Discord and put them there in the Euro Truck chat. And every single week, no one has done anything. No one has said anything, no one's asked anything. It's been stone dead silent. But any questions that I haven't gotten through this week, and tomorrow's stream should happen, we'll see. Because at the moment, I don't really just want a banner on the screen while I talk for 2 hours. That's not particularly good content. And I'm not sure what game I could play in the background. I was going to try and get my old webcam set up, so at least you could see me and hear me that way. But I don't think I'll be able to do that. I think it's, you know, the technology is too outdated now to work. So tomorrow's stream may or may not happen. I'll let you guys know within time, so you don't, you know, cancel stuff for a stream that then doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, there will still be the Cities in Motion stream next Friday, because I did say I'd do that one. But the questions from tomorrow's stream will all get answered in my Euro Truck series. And it might span over a couple of weeks or a few weeks, depending on how many I can get through per episode. Each episode is like 20 to 30 minutes long, so they're not too bad. And I'll try and get through as many of them per episode as I can. But I feel like that's a good series to actually do Q&As, because a lot of it is just driving, and some of it is just driving in silence. I try and fill the time as much as I can, but you do run out of things to talk about after a while. So that's why I had the idea, you know, conversation topics, questions, that kind of thing. Put them in the chat, put them in the comments, put them on Discord, and they'll get answered there. And again, you might not like Euro Truck for whatever reason, but hopefully you'll watch the video to either hear your question get answered, or just to be part of the community, or because, you know, it's my channel, you like my channel, you want to watch my stuff. The latter one is always flattering. So yeah, even after this week, the Euro Truck series will still be a Q&A type thing. So there's plenty of opportunities to get your questions in. I'm always happy to talk about the channel and the direction it's going in and things like that, so never feel like you can't ask about that. And yeah, use it. Use it while it's there. So the next questions are favourites and least favourites. They're not all... Well, Planet Coaster is here, Factorio, Transport Fever, Football Manager. They're the 4 games. So my favourite part about Planet Coaster is the creative freedom that you can have. Again, I saw on Reddit, someone said when the developers were making the game, they didn't imagine the kind of creative freedom that people would have when actually playing it, and some of the things that people have come up with. And some of them are awesome. Some of the designs that people have made are incredible, even if some of them are a little on the unrealistic side. But I just love the fact I can go on Planet Coaster and think, what am I going to build today? And 9 times out of 10, when I'm coming up with ideas for videos, when I sit down at my desk, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in that session. And even in videos, you'll see this coming Wednesday's episode, you'll see me basically not knowing what to do. I'm just placing random stuff, I'm testing out different ride types. Eventually something does get built, but I'm not particularly happy with it, so that might not stay for very long. But yeah, it's just me playing around with ideas, and I just love the fact that there's a game where I can do that, because it doesn't break anything. On Planet Coaster, if I build a ride that doesn't necessarily work, it doesn't cost me in the game. I don't go bankrupt. I don't, you know, the park doesn't get closed down or anything like that. I can just delete it and start again. And I like that creative freedom. And I like the fact that it's a passion project. Global Ventures is something, again, people won't believe this. I first designed Global Ventures, or what would become Global Ventures, about 15 years ago. I had an idea for a theme park. And I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon at the time, so I tried to build it in that. And it was alright. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. But then Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 came out, and I played around on that with different ideas, and kind of got some stuff that worked, kind of didn't. And it was only when Planet Coaster came out that I was able to finally sit down and think, this is the one. I can do it in this. And even now, I mean, I've hit some limitations. There's a couple of ride types that I wish were in the game that currently aren't. But I can kind of work around that. It doesn't cost me anything. So I really love the creative freedom. There are some limitations. Again, I'll talk about those when I talk about my least favorite thing. Or things, because I never have just one thing. I always have more than one. My favourite part about Factorio is the fact that you can get to a stage where everything is automated. All you have to do is place blueprints. Sometimes you might have to click a couple of boxes, and sometimes you might have to enter some text. But apart from that, once you get to robots and logistic trains, which I used in my series, once you get to that stage and you're producing robots at a fair rate, you can basically just put down a blueprint and everything will just build itself and start working automatically. And again, I love automation. On Minecraft, I used to spend more time automating processes than it would have taken just to build something manually. But I just love the fact that I can just sit and watch stuff work that I've built. It's really, really satisfying. So that's my favourite thing about Factorio. My favourite thing about Transport Fever was, to an extent, it's OpenTTD in 3D. So I could ride first person on some of my trains. I could watch passengers actually working around their schedule. So if they come from work, they walk to the station, get on a train to the next town, get off the train, walk to the bus stop, get on the bus, go to wherever. You can kind of track people and you can see where they were going. And again, you could get to a stage where you can just sit back and watch the game. You don't have to micromanage everything. And it's always satisfying to be able to do that. I like being able to leave things running. My favourite part about Football Manager is I just love football. I love football. I love going to see Stevens play, coming home and trying out the tactic and see if it works or not. And just being able to watch the matches. I didn't do it in 2018 because there was a bug in the game which caused it to crash. But sometimes when I'm not making videos or anything like that, I put the game on real time. So I'll sit for 90 minutes and watch a football match, which sounds stupid because it's not real football, but I like watching football. I'm a football fan at the end of the day. I like Stevenage and I like Newcastle, and I'll always support them and I'll always watch their matches as a priority. But if there's any match on TV, chances are I'm sitting there watching it. I am a huge football fan. And like I said, I like football probably more than I like railways. It's just one of those things, I suppose. I was quite late getting into football as well. When I was a kid, I wasn't really that into it. I used to like playing football, but not so much watching it. But as I've gotten older, yeah, I got bitten by the bug. Definitely got bitten by the bug. So I just like being able to try out tactics. I like being in charge of the team. The transfer system is really good as well. And again, there's a little bit of automation. I can turn on the match plan, which I must check is actually on. Oh, it was on. Maybe the conditions hadn't been met for subs to actually be made. I should probably change that. I won't do it now though because it takes ages. Yeah, I'm trying to. I probably should tweak my tactics a little bit because this team just doesn't score goals. So something is amiss. We're straight into the next match. What kit are we wearing today? Ah, we're wearing the third kit. So you'll get to see the 3D version of the third kit in the XVI colours. You'll see why I like the 3D kit but not the 2D kit in just a second. Doesn't that look so much nicer? Like the gradient is actually a lot better on the 3D kit. It fades in nicely. And you've got the two different coloured sleeves. Right sleeve is the yellow and the left sleeve is the blue. I just think it looks really cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Oh, DaCosta's going to get booked in the first minute. That's good. Oh no, he's not. You got away with it. But yeah, the next question. What is my least favourite part about Planet Coaster? Pathing system. It's very, very difficult to work with. Even when I build something specifically to navigate my way around the pathing system, it still finds a way to not quite work how I expected it to. And the worst part is food stalls and drink stalls and shop stalls, because they're basically they're a 1x1 tile with a path built into it, and you can't place them directly next to each other because the pathing system glitches out. Like it can connect to one, but it can't connect to the other. So you always have to leave like half a tile or a tile space between them. So the building system then gets compromised because the pathing system gets compromised. And there's no... when you're building in Planet Coaster, you can have... I think it's 1 meter by 1 meter, or... No, it's 4 meter by 4 meter is the default size, but you can also have it... the grid size be 2 meters by 2 meters or 1 meter by 1 meter. But there's no wall sizes where the width is 2 meters or 1 meter. They're only in 4 meter. So you can't put a stall 2 meters away from the one next to it because you can't block the gap between them. There isn't an asset, or at least there's no wall piece that fits in there. Sometimes people use scenery pieces and manipulate them to fit. So little things like that. It would be nice if, just as a quality of life thing, they went through all the wall sets and added a 2 meter wide piece. Because they've got different heights. They've got 1 meter, 2 meter, 4 meter heights, but they don't have widths, which I found really weird. Also the fact that you can't build diagonally. So if you have a grid system, which all buildings do, once you've started building, you can only build perpendicular to one another. So you can't have a wall piece and then a 45-degree angle and then another 45-degree angle. You can only have 90-degree curves. There is a way around it, which is you start a new building and you place a wall piece that fills that gap, but then if you have to move that building for whatever reason, you end up with just a random wall piece that's left over, and then you've got to try and eyeball that one into where it was. It's just, yeah. It would be nice if they added that in. Maybe if they do a sequel, if they had an ability to do 45-degree angles. I don't know if Planet Zoo has it. I don't think it does, because it uses the same engine. Who knows, though. I believe Jurassic World has a better pathing system than Planet Coaster, which I then think they used in Planet Zoo as well. And I think the building system is a bit more refined as well, which again was taken over into Planet Zoo. So they've admitted to it. They know that the path system isn't the best it could be, which is why I'm not... Like, I'll say now it's my least favourite thing about the game, but I'm not criticising them for it, because I admire the fact that they were open and honest about it and said, you know, we messed up, wasn't what we wanted it to be. I think that's fair enough. My least favourite thing about Factorio is the fact that no one watched it. No, that's a joke. Although I'm kind of upset by that one still. I thought Factorio would be something that my viewers would get into, and just no one did. 2 views per video. That was about it. That's about the average, which is a bit... Yeah, it's kind of upsetting. What was I going to say? I was going to say something really good then. Oh yeah, Factorio. The fact that you can't build on Y levels. You can only build on like a 2D plane. So you can't have rail tracks cross under one another or cross under belts. You can have underground belts, but it basically works as a teleporter. So you have an in portal and an out portal, which look like they go underground, but it's like a storage buffer that teleports items to the other side. So it's like RimWorld in that respect. You wish you could build on different heights, but everything's on the same level. My least favourite part about Transport Fever is it kind of feels like a shell of a game. Transport Fever 2, like I said the other day, I don't think they've improved on it enough for me to want to buy it and play it. Things like OpenTTD, you can build a station where if one platform is occupied, an incoming train will take the next available platform. Whereas in Transport Fever, each line is devoted to one platform and that's it. There's no contingency, there's no backup. So if the platform gets full, your trains will just get queued back until the platform becomes available again. Little things like that, and the cargo system is a little bit finicky at times. Transport Fever 2 has improved on this, but in the original, planes just didn't earn you any money. And once you started losing money, you would just hemorrhage money. It would just go everywhere, except in your bank account. And then that would be it. You'd be declared bankrupt. And also the fact, this is a big one actually. This is to do more with Steam than Transport Fever. But on Transport Fever, I had a really good map with a really successful company, and I was doing really, really well, really enjoying it. And I used assets from the Steam Workshop and mods, so things that people had created, third-party things. And one of them was an HST set, and that was the main source of my express rail network, and it was earning me a ton of money, and I really liked it because they had different liveries. So if you wanted Virgin or East Coast or Intercity, you could have it. And then I guess whoever created the asset just removed it from the Steam Workshop one day, because my save game broke, because I couldn't load the file because the asset didn't exist anymore. So what I think they need to add, whether this is on Steam's end of things or whether it's on the developers, but they need to add an auto download feature. So every mod you subscribe to, it automatically downloads it, and then that's the file that your game reads every time you load your save file. So even if you use cloud saves, there should still be a local folder somewhere on your computer that has all the mods and the assets in. And then if you unsubscribe from a mod or an asset, it will delete from that folder. Because that was really disappointing. That was a year ago, and I haven't played the game since, because I just got to that point of what's the point of setting up another company and having another successful save if someone just decides to take their asset off the workshop and I can't play the game anymore. So that's my least favourite thing about Transport Fever. We have a question in the chat again. Will Football Manager ever get to a point where you can just run the game automatically as a simulation for 10 years playing as Team X and see the results in history? Yeah, you can do that already. You can actually do that already. Sometimes you'll get sacked if you're actually a manager of a club, but you can start unemployed, because people do these actually this is a good subject, I'll talk about this more in a second, but people do these like social experiments on Football Manager. So they'll say things like, what if Pep Guardiola managed in the National League? And they'll use the in-game editor or the external editor to put Pep Guardiola as manager of like Braintree, and then they'll start the game as a manager unemployed, and then they'll holiday for like 15 years and just see what happens during that time. Do Braintree get into the Premier League in 15 years? That kind of thing. There's ones as well where every club in the non-league gets £1 billion and see what happens. The thing I don't like about it is one person did it and it was good, it was original, and now every single Football Manager content creator, apparently except for me, does it. So every season when the new game comes out, first thing they'll do is like Wonder Kid lists. So they'll sim the game for 20 years and they'll write down the names of all the players who are 18 or younger when the game first starts, and then where they get to in their careers. So this is how, there's a guy called Erling Haaland who scored a hat-trick for Borussia Dortmund on his debut today in real life. But he was discovered, in inverted commas, through Football Manager as one of these Wonder Kids. So a couple of years ago, someone simmed the game for 20 years and he turned into a prospect. So they wrote his name down on a piece of paper, put it on a forum somewhere. And now Football Manager, every time Haaland scores, they tweet saying, "Huh, we told you so," like it was in any way down to them that this happened. All they do is they scout players and they write down stats. They don't make players. They might make someone more aware of something, but they don't manufacture it themselves. That's the classic definition of jumping on a bandwagon, believe me. But yeah, too many people do these experiments and I get very, very bored of them. Because it's the same thing. There's only so many things you can do in these experiments and people just start copying each other. And it gets very boring and very dry very quickly. But yeah, you can already sim the game. Some people do it for 1,000 years even, just to see what happens. You get things like Man United end up going bankrupt in 2960 or whatever. Yeah, my least favourite part about Football Manager, that's the last question of these favourites and least favourites. I don't know really. Maybe that. The community. The Football Manager community is it can be really good and it can be really bad. So when it's really good, on the Reddit community, for example, it's people talking about tactics and, you know, actually sharing ideas. Particularly because every year there's a new match engine, and sometimes they tweak something to make it a bit more challenging, so you can't just copy and paste your tactics from the previous year, which a lot of people don't realise, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that's a game mechanic. So sometimes people talk about tactics and they say things like, you know, this year wingers aren't as effective as they were last year. And it's a genuine conversation. And it's actually, if you track it, if you think back to when Antonio Conte came to Chelsea, 3 at the back had never really been done in the Premier League before. Unless, you know, you had injuries or a sending off. So Conte comes in, manages Chelsea, first match, he tries 4 at the back and it just doesn't work. Halfway through the match, I believe it was against Arsenal, literally at half time he changed the tactic and went to 3 at the back, and then they played that system every single match afterwards and they won the league. Now that was something special. It's the first time that had been done. But by the end of that season, Tottenham started playing 3 at the back, Arsenal were playing 3 at the back, England started playing 3 at the back. We got to a World Cup semi-final doing that. You know, everyone started copying it. And that was the real life equivalent of like Conte had checked the match engine and said, hey, 3 at the back is really effective this season, I'm going to do that. As it happens, that's his style, that's how he's always played. I believe even now it's the system that he uses at Inter Milan. It just worked for him, and he finds a way to adapt it to work for every club and team that he's managed. So that's the good side of Football Manager and the community. The bad side is if even the slightest thing goes wrong with the game. So this year, Football Manager 2020, there was an issue where 1v1s, which is where a striker is running through and only the goalkeeper stands between him and the goal. More often than not, a striker was missing their shots. Even if they had good shooting stats, they were still missing. They weren't scoring. And people were complaining about it. But it took probably longer than it should have for the developers to respond. But they actually came out and said if you look at the stats, it's actually in line with what happens in real life. There wasn't a glitch, there wasn't a bug or anything like that. It's just when you watch Football Manager, you're watching 10 matches a day on average. Whereas in real life, you watch like 2 or 3. So over the course of a season, real life football season, you're probably watching 100, maybe 200 matches, whereas in Football Manager you're watching every single match that your team plays, and you can get through a season a week. So you're watching like 40 odd games a week, which is, you know, 2,000 games a year, give or take. Was that right? Yeah, that's right. That's working out. 40 times 50 is 2,000. Yeah. So you're watching an inflated amount of games. Therefore, the number of chances that your players miss is also inflated in comparison to real life. Whereas if you break down the stats and do it on a season-by-season basis, they just about line up, which is really good, actually. I think that's good programming, that you can make it represent real life like that. I think that's really impressive. But yeah, people complain. And they don't just complain. Sometimes people would be nice about it and they say, hey, Sports Interactive, would you mind fixing this? And a lot of the time, because a developer doesn't just drop everything because one person has said, would you mind fixing this? They have a list. Every time a game is released, there's a bug report. People are supposed to submit bug reports when they do come across a bug, and that gets turned into a support ticket, and they basically work through them in either the order they receive them, or if there's a real urgent case, they'll deal with that one first and then move on to the rest. So people would say there's a bug in the 1v1s and the match engine in general, and the developers will say to one person, the first person who says it, okay, we'll fix it, and then 400 other people will encounter the same issue, and then they get really entitled and they say things like, well, why aren't they fixing it? Whereas, yeah, they are. You weren't the one that got the response. Doesn't mean they're not fixing it, just means they couldn't tell every single person, otherwise they'd spend more time doing that than actually fixing the bug. So there's a lot of entitlement, and I think this year is the most toxic I've ever seen Football Manager become. So many people getting arsey with the developers over the smallest of things, which really don't matter. And again, I've had lots of arguments on Reddit with people. Look, just the whole time I've been on Reddit, I'm constantly arguing with people. But the most arguments I've had is on the Football Manager community, because I'm always standing up for the developers. I'm always saying it's not as easy as you guys think. You can't just... It's not like in a film where a hacker just taps a few keys on their keyboard and suddenly they're in the Pentagon. It's not that easy. You know, bug fixing is an incredibly difficult process, because the first thing you have to do is replicate the problem. And 9 times out of 10, you can't replicate the problem, so you have no idea what's wrong or how to fix it. And a lot of the time, developers have started putting in these like trapdoors where if you have a pirated version of the game, it deliberately breaks. And that's a good way of weeding out the pirates, because they'll complain about the specific bug that no one else in the world has except piracy. So that's always fun to see. Last year, I think it was, Football Manager had a lot of those, and people would go on the forums and say, why is it not working? It's doing this. And everyone's just like, ha, busted. And I love that. I love that so much. So it's so satisfying to see someone get done that way. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, one of the things that always pisses me off with gamers in general is they just don't think. They don't engage the brain long enough to think. So in the case of Football Manager, it's people were complaining that their wingers weren't doing what wingers were supposed to do. Some people were complaining that they were conceding too many goals. Some people were complaining they weren't scoring enough goals. And no one has really asked the question that I think is the first thing that should be asked, and that is, what are your tactics? This game is almost at the level of hyper-realism when it comes to actual football being played. It's not graphically realistic, and some of the numbers can be a bit skewed here and there. But in terms of football simulation, this is the closest you'll get. Whenever you read Premier League predictions, and they always talk about they've used such and such software, I can guarantee you that software is either inspired by or is Football Manager. And, you know, Sky start using it a lot to predict matches, because it's at that level now. It's at that level where it can almost correctly predict results. But yeah, no one thinks maybe my tactics are wrong. Maybe my fullbacks are too high up because I'm telling them to play too high up. No one's thinking things like, maybe I'm conceding too many goals because my defenders aren't defending properly, or maybe I haven't got a good striker and that's why they're not scoring, or I'm not giving them the ball in the right places, or things like maybe my wingers aren't playing wide enough, therefore they're not crossing, they're trying to shoot instead. No one's asking these questions and no one's saying these things. They're always just immediately jumping to, it must be a bug in the game. And it isn't. It isn't. It's just morons. It's just morons who can't work out the obvious. Sometimes there are genuine bugs, but it's getting really hard to eke those out now, because you've got so many people complaining about things that aren't bugs. They're just playing the game wrong. That's a very different thing. So I don't particularly have a problem with the game. Not anymore. The game used to crash on me a lot back in the day. Older versions of the game. But these days, it works all the time. I never have any problems. And what I like to do now is I run the game on my new PC, but I stream it to my laptop, which is downstairs. So I can play the game on a PC that isn't even in the same room, and it work fine. The graphics aren't the best, because that's Steam's streaming. It's still in the infancy stages, so the visual quality isn't that good. But the game works. It works really, really well. I can, get through several matches a day doing that, and it means it's mobile. So I think I have to be in the house. I think I have to be on the local network. Oh God, that was a bad goal to concede. But I can be anywhere in the house and be able to play Football Manager. And I think that's awesome, because all my laptop does is display the picture. It doesn't actually run the game. Although I found a neat quirk with that this morning. I had OpenTTD playing on my desktop, trying to run through some train cycles, trying to fix the problems that I've been having. And because the game was running, there was sound. So I came downstairs with my laptop, opened up Football Manager, started streaming it onto my laptop, and I could hear the sound of trains on OpenTTD. And I spent ages thinking, how can I hear that? And basically what it does is it just streams your picture and your sound. It doesn't stream the game. It just takes whatever's on your monitor and streams it. So I think I could just run a Steam game in the background and be able to play OpenTTD anywhere in the house. That'd be kind of cool if that was the case. More questions in the chat. What was your starting conditions for your team? Composition, finances, players, locations, events. So I started in the Spartan South Midlands Division 1, which is at level 10 of English football. That, for the record, is six levels below the Football League. So it took me 6 seasons minimum to get into the Football League, which is League 2 and above. And actually, I think overall it took me 8 seasons, because I got relegated one season and had to get promoted again. So that set me back a little bit. If you think each season is a year, if I was to manage Hatfield in real life, it would be a minimum of 6 years before I'd be in the Football League and be able to play teams like Stevenage. You have to devote a lot of your life to football, believe me. Finances were poor because of that. But as I've risen through the leagues, the teams got richer. We built a new stadium when we got into the Football League. So it's not... Whoops, just kicked my stool over. It's not too bad. Finances is always something that I like to play around with in Football Manager anyway. I like to try and work on tight budgets wherever possible. It just makes the game more challenging and more fun, in my opinion. As I say, if you play as Man United, you're basically playing on easy mode, because you can just buy anyone you like for as much as you like, not have to worry about it. Which... some people like to do that because they're the glory hunters, but you get no satisfaction from it, or at least I don't. Yeah, players. There's 3 types of contract in Football Manager, as there is in real life. You've got full-time, which is what Premier League teams are on, basically, or all Football League teams. All professional teams have full-time contracts. Then you have part-time, which is also known as semi-professional. So they might only train twice a week, and then they're contracted to play match days, that kind of thing. Then you have amateur, which I think Hatfield is in real life, but on the game it's classed as semi-pro. But that's for finance issues. Dan's mentioned that on the forum in the past, which is perfectly understandable, although people criticise him for that as well, because it's not realistic. But actually it is. Amateur and semi-pro are basically the same thing. You get paid like £10 a match, and that's it. So yeah, you have a lot of players that have semi-pro or amateur contracts when you first start at that level. And within half a season, if you're doing particularly well, bigger teams come in. Because if you're on a semi-pro or an amateur contract, other teams can just sign your players. There's no transfer fee or anything like that, and they can sign them at any time. So you might play a match, your star striker will score a hat-trick, and the next day a team will come in for them and they'll just leave and go. So again, it adds to the challenge. You play a good match, you lose your best players. You have to try and replace them. So I always try and have like a short list of players that I'd like to come in and play for the team. Locations. That's a good question actually, because in the Premier League, all over the country there's Premier League teams, and the same in the Football League. But once you get down to the National League North-South level, the reason it's North and South is they try and localise it a little bit more. So the line is roughly in the Midlands, but sometimes if there's more teams in the South than there are in the North, that particular season, they'll try and move the northernmost team in the southern region into the North League. And it's because when you're a smaller team, you don't have the money to travel over the country, so try and make the journey times as small as possible to make the journeys as cheap as possible. And when you get right down to level 10, most of the teams that Hatfield play against in real life are either based in Hertfordshire, maybe West Essex, sometimes Buckinghamshire and North London, and that's it. So they really, really localise it. Events, there's cup matches and stuff like that. The tactics change considerably. When you're in non-league, you tend to have a pacey striker and a tall striker. You play a simple 4-4-2 and you just kick the ball over the top. So either the big man will head it on to the little guy, or the little guy will just run in behind the defence. As you get promoted, it gets harder to actually do that. So you have to try and play slick football, total football, whatever you might call it. So the best tactic I've always found is the 4-2-3-1, which I was playing with until my right back got himself sent off like an idiot. 4-2-3-1 is my favourite formation in football anyway, because it's the most flexible. When you're defending, you can go into a more of a 5-man defence. And when you're attacking, technically your attacking midfielder can also play as a second striker if you really want them to, which 9 times out of 10 I do. I'm just debating who to bring on. I'm just tired. My left back. He's pretty much played every game for me this season. I should probably sub him off. So yeah, there's a lot that evolves as you go up the leagues. I'm going to do a series. Foot Manager 2020. I'm going to do a full series, stream it once a week. It'll probably be Friday nights, but it will depend on, you know, situations and circumstances, shall we say. Because Friday night used to be Siege night. I kind of want it to be Siege night from here on as well. So it'll either be Fridays or Saturdays, maybe sometimes Sundays. But I'll try and do it at least once a week, because I really want to make a go of it this year. Every year I say that, you know, I'm going to do Foot Manager every week, but it's always been videos, whereas now I want to do streams. Particularly now I've got a PC that can actually do streams and run the game at the same time without it being exceptionally slow. Have you ever successfully predicted a match by simulating it in Foot Manager to the best of your ability? I've not simulated a match, got a result, and then said this is what's going to happen. But I have predicted the outcome of matches based on my Football Manager experience. The best example of that was... I'm trying to think. There's been times in the Premier League where I've said things might happen, and then they have happened. FIFA doesn't really have that level of predictability, whereas Football Manager does. So on FIFA, really weird and unrealistic things end up happening. Like recently, I got my Stevenage team into the Premier League, and I was playing against a Chelsea side that had Ollie McBurney up front. And I'm not saying he's a bad player by any stretch, but he was rated like 60-something. He was 34 years old, and he was playing up front for Chelsea as a first-choice striker. That's not very realistic, let's be honest. And this was only 10 years into the game. So imagine how much more skewed it would get the further into the game you get. Whereas Football Manager, one of the best stories actually, I can't remember who it was now, might have been Steve Bruce, told a story about his, oh no, it was Alex McLeish, that was it, when he was at I think he was at Birmingham, and his son came up to him one day and said he'd been playing this game called Football Manager, and he had a player who was playing in the youth academy at Barcelona, who he thought would be a perfect signing for his dad's team, and his name was Lionel Messi. And you know, back then Football Manager didn't have the scouting network that it does now. Football Manager has the largest football scouting network in the world, and anyone can do it. Every season they put out, if there's a team that needs a scout, they'll put out an advert for it, and if you're a fan of the team, or if you just like football in general, you're invited to go along and scout the team and get all the accurate stats for the players. I think that's awesome, the fact that you can actually be part of it. And there's a really great story on Reddit of a guy, I think he's in Iceland, he's definitely in Scandinavia. He supports his local team, and he plays as them on Football Manager, and because of that he actually now works for his favourite team as an analyst and as a scout. I think he's starting to get on the coaching side of things as well. He posts updates on Reddit. I think that's a really awesome story. I'll see if I can find a link for that at some point and put it in the description. Yeah, there's a lot of good stories about people on Football Manager and stuff that's come out of it, just how realistic the game is. So yeah, I've never predicted an actual result. Like, I've never run... Stevenage played Cambridge today and we won 4-0. I didn't run that match yesterday and say we were going to win 4-0. But I have predicted things based on tactics and things that I've seen in the game. One of the best things I like to do is, Stevenage had an awful start to the season this season. Really, really bad. We've been bottom all season. So when I downloaded the beta for Football Manager, the first thing I did was start a game of Stevenage, and I played all those matches again, and I tried to better the result that we got in real life. And I think my team are top in the beta. I'll have to check. We're definitely in like the top 5 or 6. won a lot of matches, scored a absolute shed load of goals. So I like righting wrongs. If Newcastle get relegated, which they've done twice in the time I've been playing Football Manager, next season I'll get Football Manager and the first goal is get Newcastle back in the Premier League. The most fun I had was when Portsmouth had their financial troubles. It was before they got relegated to League 2, it was while they were still in League 1. Because they had no money, no transfer budget, no wage budget, nothing. And every season for like 3 years, I used to just start a match as start a game, as Portsmouth, and just try and get them back promoted. And sometimes it was easy, sometimes it was hard. And even once I'd done it, I would scrap that save and start again and see if I could do it with different players and different tactics. It is really fun to experiment, try out different things. Kurt, I know you're trolling, but I'll answer your question anyway. You know how long my hair is. You saw me last week. It's a week's worth of growth longer than it was the last time you saw me. Ben on Twitch. Have you ever owned a real car, or do you just like cardboard boxes with wheels? I'm not really sure what that's in relation to, whether you're having a dig at the Panda or what, but I've had 2 cars in my lifetime. 3 if you count the little, is it Little Tykes car that every kid had? The one that looks like a smart car that's painted red and yellow. Have you ever entered into fantasy sports? If so, have you ever won? Yeah, I've done internal fantasy football. For those of you that don't know, fantasy football is you pick a team every week. You have a budget, and you pick a team of real players. And then you compete, so you get points. Each player gets points depending on what they do and don't do. So if you get sent off, you lose points. If you score, you get bonus points. If you're captain and you have a really good game, I think you get double points in some fantasy leagues. And I've won a couple of those against family and friends. I got really good at picking teams, and then there was one season where I had an absolute shocker, and I haven't played it since. Because people always... It's that typical thing of people always mock you. They always go like, oh, you're supposed to be good at football. Why didn't you get a good result this week? And it really isn't as simple as that. If it was as simple as that, I'd be a millionaire right now because I'd be betting on all the football results. Although I did do that recently. I had some excess money in my betting account. So I thought I'd just spend it. So I did some fairly realistic bets. But I didn't think they were really going to pay out. And I ended up quadrupling the amount I had left. In fact, maybe even more than that. I'm trying to think. I had like £5 left, and I ended up with 30 odd. So I sextupled my money, which I certainly wasn't expecting. But I cashed out. I bottled it. I thought I had a good week. I'm not going to risk it. But yeah, I reckon fantasy football is something. If I did my Football Manager series and it took off, next season I might actually do a fantasy football and invite viewers to join in. Because most of them these days, they're free to enter, so it's not like I'm charging people, and I'm certainly not getting the money if I do. If people do get charged for entering, it doesn't come to me, it comes to whoever runs it. I have short-term memory, mate. You know me. I'm surprised you remember my name half the time. You certainly don't remember who your teammates are on Siege, that's for sure. What was your first FM? Football Manager 2005, I think, was my first one. And then 2006. I've had every one since, but one I got twice. So I had Football Manager 2006 on the PC, and then I bought it secondhand for the Xbox because I wanted to see what it was like. And even now, the non-PC or the non-main version of the game, because they have touch versions now and they have mobile versions. They're not as good as the full fat version. I much prefer this version of the game. Although they have made it save game compatible now. So if the touch version is for I think it's for tablets, and it's also for the Switch. And then there's a Google Stadia version which is slightly different to the PC version. and then there's the mobile version which you can play on your phone. And I think you can have a save file in the mobile version, and then you can open it up on PC and play it there as well. So it's like if you're a commuter, if you're regularly on the train, you can load up your save file and play on your way to work. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I've had every Football Manager since 2005. I want to tweak me lineup slightly because something ain't right. I need a new right back as well. Maybe I should look for that first. You're not Alex. I mean, we all have form. Let's be honest. I don't think any of us can criticize anyone else for team killing on Siege. We're all as bad as each other. The one where I spun round and shot Ben in the crotch. That's probably my worst moment. Alright, this guy might be good. Put an inquiry in for him. Why was it you chose M5J Gaming again? I'm surprised no one's asked the origins of M4J, actually. I know I've talked about it in the past, but I thought that would be one of the first questions people would ask. Right, to go back to the questions on the sheet I've got here. Who are your biggest YouTube inspirations? What are some channels similar to your style? So my biggest inspirations aren't so much I would see something and think, oh, I want to build that. It's more things like schedule, ambition, scope, kind of like sense of humor style and editing style, rather than, you know, like if I'm playing Planet Coaster, I don't see someone build a coaster and think, oh, I want to try that, because I have my own unique ideas based on that. But time-lapse, like turning that series into a time-lapse series, that kind of came from seeing what other channels were doing, because live builds are really difficult a lot of the time. You kind of feel like you're under pressure to get it right first time, and then you end up creating something not as good as what you think you can do. So I switched to a time-lapse because I saw more and more people were doing that, and it's actually a lot better, because in real life it might take me 10 minutes to come up with an idea for something, whereas in the time-lapse it takes 30 seconds, and then you see me start building. So it takes the pressure off. It feels a lot easier. So that's kind of the inspiration there. It's to do more with channel style than video style or individual content style, or even building style. The building style that you see on my channel, pretty much all of it comes from me. People give me ideas to build things, and then it's up to me to interpret that and build it in my style. Channels similar to mine, or similar to my style, I'd like to think there aren't any, because that's the idea with YouTube, is you really want to be as unique as possible. You don't want to be seen as like someone else. But in terms of lineup, Quill18 is very close to my style. He does play Football Manager, but he plays Football Manager for the strategy side of it rather than the football side of it. Although I think he was on BBC News a couple of years ago, because he did a save as Ayr United, and now he like once or twice a year he holidays in Scotland and he actually goes and watches Ayr United play. So that's a nice Football Manager story as well. But I watched his channel before he started playing Football Manager, because I used to watch him because he played Railroad Tycoon. But RimWorld and Factorio I started playing because I saw them on his channel. And even when I did my series, the RimWorld series that I did a few months ago, I used his mod folder, but I did a different play style to him. So, you know, there was a lot of inspiration there in that respect. I literally went on Steam and downloaded his compilation folder, but then I did my own thing with it. And that's what I like to do, is even if I do see something I like and want to build myself, I'll still put my own unique twist on it. So Zest Husky did his Open TTE series, which I was a big fan of. and I thought I want to build a realistic series like that, but I did my own thing with it. And now the M4J network is very, very different to what anyone else on YouTube is doing. People in real life, or out in real life, it's a game. People outside of YouTube might have the same style as me, but I can only judge by what I see on YouTube. And like I said, I like to think there's no one else out there with that style, and that's what makes my channel unique. And that's why you should subscribe to me, because at the end of the day, if it's one of a kind, you want to stay up to date with it, unless it's really bad, of course. Some people do get uniqueness and quality mixed up. Like standing on top of a hill, yodeling with a goat bleating next to you is pretty unique, but I wouldn't watch it. What are your favourite channels, or what is your favourite channel on YouTube? Yeah, I have a lot. I can get up my subscriber list if you like, so you can see all the channels I'm subscribed to. Let's see. So, I mean, these are all vastly different as well, so brace yourself. Frankie on PC is the first one. I still regularly watch his DayZ series, and I'm still hoping and praying that there will be another episode one day in the future. Quill18, Macy J, for those of you that don't know, he's a Siege player. Achievement Hunter, big fan of Achievement Hunter. For my motivation for graduating university was I wanted to work for Achievement Hunter. And even now, I still harbour that ambition, but moving to America right now is probably not the best move for me. Plus, you know, I watched a vlog, Bernie Burns, one of the founders of Rooster Teeth, who own Achievement Hunter, or they own them. I wouldn't say they own them. Achievement Hunter is part of the Rooster Teeth family. But he did a vlog where he answered lots of questions, and one of them was, how do I work for Rooster Teeth? And his answer was, why do you want to work for Rooster Teeth? Why don't you go out there and make your own Rooster Teeth? So I do like to think that XVI is kind of my Rooster Teeth with my friends. We're on to making some good things here. Chosen Architect, he does a lot of Minecraft stuff. Foil Arms and Hog, they're a comedy trio from Ireland. They are very, very funny. I strongly recommend them. Corridor Crew, visual effects team in Los Angeles. Andy Carter, otherwise known as Calling All Stations. Marley 13, Call of Duty player. The Slow Mo guys. Jeff Marshall, Theme Park Crazy. He does lots of very, very well researched and very well written top 10 lists about theme parks and roller coasters. Teabag, which is not the best name for a channel, but he does Battlefield videos. Park Ride History, Hembo Hero, who does a lot of Rooster Teeth compilations and montages and does a very good job with them. McKinley Railway, which is partially my inspiration at the moment for a model railway idea that I've been coming up with. Outside Extra and Outside Xbox. Chris Eden Green, he's an independent filmmaker who makes videos about steam locomotives. Fast Pass Facts, who do a lot of Disneyland, Disney World based stuff. Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't really know why I'm subscribed to them, because a lot of their videos I don't find particularly entertaining. A lot of their compilations I find quite funny, but the compilations are the highlights. But they also post videos of the non-highlights, and I get a bit bored of those. Brett Domino. If you don't know who Brett Domino is, oh boy. He's not the easiest to explain, shall we say. But if you're into that kind of thing, he's very, very funny. He's also very talented. Corridor Digital. Corridor Crew is like the vlogging channel of Corridor Digital. TPM Vids, they also do a lot of Disney-based stuff. The Tim Tracker, again, if you don't know who the Tim Tracker is, he's an awesome vlogger in Florida. Just check him out. Coaster Force. Luke the Notable, he's the only reason I can tolerate Fortnite. Expedition Theme Park. Stevenage FC, gee, I wonder why. The Tim Traveller, who is not related to the Tim Tracker. He's another guy who does like consumer and tourist tips around Europe, mostly. Coasterbot, Londonist, all the stations, Lieutenant Joker, Let's Play, which is Achievement Hunter is part of Let's Play as well as part of Rooster Teeth. What Culture, although I don't really know why I'm subscribed to them, because just, yeah, the less said about that the better. Josh, he makes train sim videos. He made the scenario that we played on stream the other night. He's also a good friend of mine, so I'm subscribed to his channel. He's done a few videos recently, actually, which if you like trains, I suggest you check out. There's a really good up-and-coming channel called X Vision Interactive that I've subscribed to. So I strongly, very, very strongly, if there's one video for the rest of your life that you subscribe to, it better be XVI. And I can say that because I run it. Sea Game World, he does City Skylines videos. Squirrel, I don't watch his stuff as much as I used to because he kind of veered off in a direction where he stopped uploading to YouTube much, so I don't really get to see his stuff a lot. The Slow Mo Guys 2, Steve Mould, he's a physicist. I was about to say physician, that's not the same thing. He's a physicist who does a lot of science-based videos. He's also part of the Festival of the Spoken Nerd, who are a comedy trio. I subscribe to my brother as well. If you like golfing videos or retro gaming, he's a good channel to check out. That's basically it. It's like theme parks, railways, Outside Xbox as well, if I haven't mentioned them. Captain Disillusion. He's very, very good, Captain D. Hopefully he's got a new video out soon because he keeps referring to one. Fingers crossed on that. Oh, my goalkeeper's had a nightmare there. Yeah, Gaming on Caffeine. Brothy does GTA racing videos. Nox Crew, although they haven't uploaded in a very long time. Hashtag United. Zest Husky, of course. The Odd One's out. Captain Excellent, he does a lot of gaming Easter egg videos. There's a lot of channels like that. That's basic. I mean, I think it's like 400 or 500 channels I might be subscribed to. Maybe less than that. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. There's a lot. At the end of the day, there's a lot. So I won't go through them all, for obvious reasons. But you get the gist. You get an idea as some of the things I'm into, some of the videos I watch. Sometimes I get into games because I see other people play them. And that's why I always champion watching as many videos on my channel as you can. Because there might be a game that you didn't even know existed. And you see it on the channel and you end up buying it. And it's the best game you've ever played. Who knows? There's one coming out soon called Project Macavia, which I've heard is really good. That might be the best game you've ever played. Why did you change the name from Jeffries to M4J? So, sorry Kurt, I will have to do a little bit of an origin story for this. Actually, James has asked the question. As for your old name, M4J3FFR135, what did each of the letters numbers mean? Right. When I was a kid, every year, me and my brother would get Newcastle shirts for Christmas or birthday. And up until I think I was 10, maybe slightly older or younger, I'm not 100% sure, but we used to just get Jeffries and then our age on the back. So my brother is a year and a bit older than me, so he would always have a number up from mine. So when I was 10, I had Michael Owen's number on my back, which was funny because he didn't sign for us until 2 years later. But it used to just say Jeffries on the back. What's happened? Is my PC... Oh no. Game just froze for a second. Hopefully you heard all of that. But yeah, I just had Jeffries on the back. So Jeffries is my surname, Mark is my first name. And I decided I wanted to distinguish my shirt from my brother's shirt. Because even though... This was back in the day where sometimes in football a team would have the same shirt for 2 or more seasons. Can you believe it? Whereas these days even the poorest teams have a new shirt every season. But, yeah, so my brother started having T. Jeffries on his back because he's Tom. And I started having M. Jeffries on my back because I'm Mark. And, you know, these days, the Longstaff brothers for Newcastle, they did the same thing. What inspired me was the Amiobi brothers in Newcastle. They were doing it. And also, who else? I'm trying to remember what other brothers there were. That might be it, actually. That might have been the reason. I can't remember now. But yeah, I started having M. Jeffries on my back. So when I was at school and doing PE, sort of in the early years of school, you have to wear a PE kit, a designated PE kit that the school assigned so they can make money off the company that sells it. But once you got to 6th form, or I think year 11 even, you can start wearing your own PE kit. So I started wearing my Newcastle shirts to PE. particularly when we were doing football. So because I had M. Jeffries on my back, one of my nicknames was Majeffries. And that's what people used to like when we were out on the pitch running around. People would just shout that out because, you know, everyone's a comedian when you're at school. So that was my thing. So when it came time to make my YouTube channel, I was trying to think of a name, and I thought, actually, that's a good name. But I wanted it to make sense as a word. So my first name is Mark, my surname is Jeffries, and these days I can't actually spell my surname without accidentally typing J3 first. Then I have to delete it and do J-E. But yeah, my middle name begins with A. So I thought, why not turn the A into a 4, turn all the other letters that can be turned into numbers, and that was my YouTube name. But all the feedback I was getting from people was, it's a really good name to say out loud and remember it that way, but when you're trying to type it into the search bar, you don't necessarily know how it's spelt. So after, was it 5 years of being Majeffries, I decided just to shorten it to M4J. I don't think it's a bad name. I think it's pretty good. Bloody hell, Ben's playing FIFA. I never thought I'd see the day. But that's the origin story. You know, stay tuned for the post-credits scene at the end of this film as well. I actually like the fact that my channel has an origin story like that. Because some people, again on Reddit, people just say, oh, my name's Nick and I like pancakes and my channel's called Pancake Nick. It's just there's no story behind it. There's nothing where you can sit the kids down in front of a fire and tell them. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it was Alex was the first one. I said Majeffries one day because Ben and Alex and Sakif and Dylan, they've only known me since I was M4J. So when I first told them what the channel was, I think it was Alex who misheard me and started calling me Mook Jeffries. The thing I hated was when I was Majeffries and streaming, no one called me by that name. And even when I said just call me Mark, people still called me Jeffers or Majeffers, or they just make up their own name for me. So now I'm M4J, there's no excuse for not calling me M4J, because it's very easy to say, and it's even easier to spell. What's the time? 9:30. Okay. Any more questions in the chat? My channel name has a good origin story, my logo less so. That was literally, as my first video was being uploaded, I suddenly thought, shit, I need a logo for my channel. So I just quickly went on Paint, chose a random colour blue, chose a random colour red, put them in boxes and layers, and then just put some text on top saying Majeffries. Which I just chose a random font, which is the AR Darling font, for those of you that are wondering. And I still use it on my thumbnails, even though my channel logo now uses a different font, which I think is called Old Typeface. Kurt should know because he made the logo for me. Yeah, the new logo is inspired by the old logo, as I'm sure you can see. But it's actually designed by people who know what they're doing. But the colour scheme, the blue and the red, even the Hatfield kits you see on the screen right now, that is the same blue and the same red as my very, very first logo back in 2013. I think that's something, a lot of companies and channels change their logos. Sometimes they change the colour scheme. But I think it's something, I'll always change the logo, I'll always freshen things up there, but I'll never change the colours. The blue and the red, they're pretty much mine now. I don't own the rights to them or anything, but I always refer to them as M4J Blue and M4J Red. And it's always nice, without giving too much away, it's always nice to see my colours in games that I'm either playing or perhaps making. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Kurt, you better not change it now I've said that. What's your spirit animal? Probably a sloth or a koala. Because I spend more time horizontal than vertical these days. That sounded wrong. I sleep a lot. That's what I meant to say. I sleep a lot and I'm lazy as hell. That's why I find it funny, that paradox of I spend more time and effort making things automated than I actually do doing it manually, because I can't be bothered to do it manually every single time, so I try and automate it. Ooh, good goal. Have you ever tried starting with £0 and running a successful team in FM? Yeah, every year with Hatfield. You get a wage budget, of course, but you get no transfer budget in your first season, or if you do, it's like £1,000, and that's meant to last you a whole year. Oh, my spirit train would be a networker. Because when they were younger, they were go anywhere, can do anything, nice and fast. And these days they're showing their age. I plank everywhere. Not many people know this. I actually started planking before it was a thing. But no one believes me. I used to play golf twice a week. I used to play football like 4 times a week. These days, I can't even get out of bed without something cracking. I'm 27 years old on Wednesday. 22nd of January is my birthday. I'm 27 years old and I feel like a 50-year-old. That's what having 2 foot operations does to you. Just your fitness levels drop, then your stamina goes with it, and then just everything else just starts falling apart. Alright, come on Hatfield. I know we had a goal disallowed for offside just now. Oh, that's a penalty. You dumb bastard. Can I have just a trained sniper on the roof? Every time that left back puts a challenge in, just take him out before he has the chance to. Wow. That was the worst penalty I've ever seen. I actually thought of something just now when I said about my keeper having a shocker in the first half. Something else people don't realise about Football Manager. If you've ever played the old SimCity games, like SimCity, was it 3000? SimCity 4, all of them up to the 2013 one, which no one really wants to talk about. SimCity 2013, or SimCity 5 I think it was sometimes known, that was the first SimCity game to actually have realistic traffic. All the games before that were representations of traffic. So a car will drive from a building to another building, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a person in that car making that journey. It was just, here's a road, here's a representation of some cars that will drive on that road. Football Manager is very much the same with the match engine. The match engine calculates certain things that are going to happen. So it will say things like the keeper comes to try and catch the ball and accidentally drops it, and the striker behind him will score. What it doesn't do is define those exact points. So right here, right now, my keeper was to pass to that guy, but it doesn't necessarily say how he's going to pass it to that guy. Whether it's going to be on the ground, whether it's going to be on in the air, whether the ball's going to curve or go straight. The screen then shows a representation of the ball travelling between point A and point B. So that's why sometimes you get these weird glitches where your defender might be running straight towards the ball, and then they'll suddenly stop and the opposition player will run past them and take the ball instead. Because the game's code, all it says is opposition player beats your player to the ball. It doesn't say how. It doesn't say whether they're 10 yards behind and somehow catch up, or whether your player just decides they're not interested in the ball anymore. Not enough people, again, consider this. They always complain and say the match engine is broken because their player gave the ball away. And that's not the case at all. SimCity wasn't broken because it didn't show every single car in the game. City Skylines isn't broken because it doesn't show every single person who lives in your city. Football Manager isn't broken just because it doesn't show every single second by second, frame by frame interpretation of a match. And even here, my guy's dribbling with the ball, but there was only a start point and an end point there. The player made its own mind up as to how it was going to go between those 2 points. And here, he stops the ball. Sometimes you'll give the ball away there because it doesn't necessarily take the ball as close to the touchline as it would be in real life. So in real life, you see players run towards the ball and they kind of back heel it in order to keep it in. But then they have to stop their momentum, turn around and run back. The game doesn't always show that. Your player just stops on a dime and then just stands there for a second while an opposition player comes and takes the ball away. In reality, they'd have probably run into the advertising board and are recovering. Do you have any detailed previews of your 3D kits? Yes, I do. What I might do, I'm not sure if I can do it because of licensing. I've tried to, in the 3D kits, in fact even in the 2D kits I think, there's no manufacturer logos. Because what I was going to do was make them available to download on the website. So if you wanted to play as Hatfield on Dan's database, you'll be able to do it with the same kits that I use. And I'll try and do that as a yearly thing from now on. But yeah, I think I showed them on an OpenTTD stream when I was talking about rail liveries for M4J Rail, putting my own livery into the game. I showed the 3D kits as an example of how I thought the system worked. It turns out I was very, very wrong. Because in Football Manager, what you do is you create a XML file or a text file that just says, for this team, using this ID number, use this file as its kit. And then you can set it either as a 2D kit or a 3D kit. And then in the game, they appear, like so. Whereas in OpenTTD, it is not like that. Very, very different kettle of fish. Yeah, I might do that this week. If I have got manufacturer logos, I'll take them off. I've got things like the M4J logo and the XVI logo, which I'm a part owner of the XVI logo, but I'm a full owner of the M4J one, so I don't mind redistributing them. The Hatfield Town logo I shouldn't have issues with. Hopefully not. I mean, I'm not capitalising on these anyway, but even so, if anything, it raises awareness for the club, which I think they'll be happy with. But yeah, I'll make them available to download so you can have a look at them. The 3D files look very weird when you look at them as a PNG. It's only in the game where it's all composited together that it actually makes sense. It's kind of like if you take a cardboard box and what's the word I'm looking for? Unravel it, undo it, turn it into a flat piece of cardboard. You have bits jutting out all over the place. That's basically what the 3D kits are. So you have like a block in the top left corner, which is the shirts, and then you have a block directly below that, which is shorts and socks, and then you have sleeves on the right hand side. I think captain's armband is somewhere there as well. So yeah, those look weird. The 2D kits look like actual kits though, so I'll make those available as well. Pear or apple? I've not really eaten pear. Apple is my favourite fruit, if I can say that. I only really like 2 or 3 types of fruit. Food questions aren't the best thing for me. I'm not the most diverse when it comes to food. But I do like apple. I do like apple. But I hate apple juice. But I do like apple. I think I've had pear before, maybe once or twice. Must have been a while ago though. And if there was a software company called Pear, then I'd choose them over Apple, believe me. Oof, that looked like it hurt. Right in the face. Would you rather only play FM20 whatever, or only play OpenTTD? Oh man. That is a hard question to answer. Probably Football Manager, to be honest. And that's not me saying I don't want to play OpenTTD anymore, because believe me, I do. But in my lifetime, even as a kid, when Football Manager didn't exist to me, I've probably sunk more hours into Football Manager than I have Transport Tycoon and OpenTTD. Because this game, when I was at school in particular, and I wasn't revising for exams or doing my homework, I would play this game for like 8 hours a day. It was crazy. Not sure if you've heard, but Greater Manchester is hoping to introduce a bus franchising system where TFGM? Oh, TFGM. Transport for Greater Manchester. That makes sense. Decides the routes, prices and profits, etc. and the company operates the service. Okay, so a bit like what London have. I actually didn't know this until recently. Can you believe it? London buses are not all run by the same company. It's the same as what they've done with the Overground and the DLR. They actually franchise it out. I never knew that, because they're all painted red. They've all got TfL on the side and Routemaster and whatever, but they're not owned by, or they're not run by TfL. I'm bored and tired with suggestions for the rail industry, because have you noticed that everyone has an opinion except those who work in the rail industry? So you've got a guy who works for an airline writing a review, you've got people who run bus companies or coach companies or shipping companies trying to make recommendations, or you've got people from chemical companies or banks or investment firms. Everyone has an opinion. There's only some that I value. And it goes back to when people were commenting on my videos, and I always look at, what are your credentials? Why are you saying what you're saying? Unfortunately, in the real world, people recommend things if they feel like they'll profit from it. And if they don't, they'll stay very, very quiet. And that's the sad reality. So all these people that are trying to find better ways to run the rail system, have a look at what they do for a living and where they're coming from. Did I score again, by the way? Oh, I did. Woohoo! We're actually winning a match. We're in Stevenage territory right now. Transport for West Midlands has single branded buses like TfL. It makes sense, because at the end of the day, I don't particularly care who runs what when it comes to rail, bus, airline or anything. As long as the service is good, I don't really care whose name is printed on the side of it. So in terms of brand recognition, if you're in London and you see a red bus, you'll just get on it. You don't care who runs it. The fare prices are all the same. You don't really care who the money goes to, as long as it's not anything dodgy, of course. You'll just get on the bus because you recognise it as a London bus. I think that's a smart way of standardising your network. Actually, a good example of that is Test Track at Epcot at Disney World. Used to be sponsored by General Motors until 2012. And one of the reasons it changed was General Motors had money problems anyway. But they got a... I can't remember what the official word for it is. But basically the government bailed them out. And the contract for sponsoring Test Track was up for renewal, and GM decided that it would not look good if they sunk several $1 million into a theme park attraction after laying off thousands of workers in their factories. So they ended the GM contract with Disney, and instead Chevrolet, which is owned by GM, signed a contract with Disney to sponsor the ride from then on, because they thought that the GM brand was too damaged to work with Disney, but Chevrolet wasn't. Because there might even be people in America who don't know that Chevrolet is owned by GM. It's like when you look at all the companies that Coca-Cola own, or even now the companies that Disney own. Disney own, I think, 60% of GoPro. I never knew that. Disney now also own like Universal Orlando, considering all the franchises. Yeah, I think my stream's gone down. Whoops, that's not good. hang on, let me fix this. Right, I'm going to stop the stream and start again. This is probably going to be going up on YouTube as the video rather than the stream becoming a video. So let me stop the stream. Oh wait, no, I might be back now. It says online again. Yeah, did the stream go down for a second there? Also, has it been buffering? Or is that just at my end? I've not dropped many frames. 0.9% of the frames. Had to reload twice. Once about an hour ago and another time now. Huh. That's really weird. My restream just said the YouTube stream went down. It came up saying offline just now. And Twitch just went offline as well. I have no bloody clue what just happened. Well, we're back. That's the main thing. We are back and working again. I'm going to save the game real quick. Was lagging slightly. Has it been lagging throughout? Or is it just now? Not buffering, just went down. Okay. If it's not buffering, then I'd rather it didn't buffer than it didn't crash and come back. Because buffering is the worst. Repetitive buffering as well is just the worst. Alright, we're coming up to 10. I'd say we got like 15 minutes there or thereabouts of the stream left. So if you've got any more questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to ask. I'm still, right now, trying to think of a way of doing tomorrow's stream. Because even if, like, everyone here said they wouldn't mind just a banner with me answering questions, I still think that's probably not the best way to do a video. Particularly because I've got like 50 odd questions to answer. 57 questions for tomorrow's stream. Oh boy, the hole I dug. I should also mention at this point the apology for yesterday's stream being postponed. Basically after Thursday, because I'd been streaming Monday, Wednesday and Thursday, I don't normally talk for 2 hours without a break every day for that many days. Because even on the Tuesday, I wasn't streaming, but I was recording videos and doing some other stuff. So my voice just went. And I woke up yesterday morning. Normally overnight, it recharges and you're fine again. But I woke up yesterday morning. I felt like shit. And then I tried speaking for the first time, and I had no voice. So all of yesterday, I was basically sucking down throat sweets trying to get my voice back. And also just sleeping. So, I mean, yesterday afternoon, I don't really remember much because I was asleep on the sofa. Got an early night last night. Still feel tired today, but my voice is back, so I'm able to stream. I feel tired a lot, in all honesty, but if I can talk, chances are I'll be doing a stream of some kind or a video. Oh, you'll accept that. Good stuff. Transfer negotiations is one of my favourite things to do in Football Manager. It's completely unrelated to football, but it's just fun. I enjoy doing it. But yeah, the Cities in Motion stream will go up next week in one form or another. If the stream can't happen for any reason, because I don't actually know what my schedule's like next week yet. I've got a lot of family stuff and work stuff. I really want to throw myself back into work again, because I took 3 weeks off, I think, in the end, instead of 2 over Christmas. So I should probably, discipline myself there and get back into it. What's my transfer budget? Oh dear. I might not be able to afford this guy. Hang on, let me see if I can sell some players. But yeah, even if I can't do a stream next Friday, I will make a video where I answer all the questions that people have asked. Because I don't want to leave it in the lurch. That wouldn't be particularly fair. I don't mind selling these players at cut price as long as they actually leave. Who else? I've got some shockers in this list. Players who my director of football signed, and I just think, why the hell have you brought them in? Some of these are ex-youth players, though. Like, for example, Jamie Spencer. He's a youth player of mine. He's now in the first team. Pavey Boyce. Garner. Moore. I think Adamson. Oh, no, maybe not Adamson. But Akuda is a youth player of mine who... Well, I think I signed him when he was young. He might not have come through my academy, but I signed him when he was young. The best one is JK. He's on loan to me at the moment, but he came through my youth system. We sold him to Millwall for £3 million, and we've had him on loan every season since. I think I might be able to sign him on a free transfer soon. So that's a really good way of making £3.4 million. What are those red-green squares in the player list? So these like player status. So here, WNT means they're wanted by another team. Which is always the bane of my existence, because how can both my goalkeepers be wanted by Bournemouth? Come on now. The blue ones means they're homegrown, so there's certain leagues have certain rules regarding homegrown players, and homegrown is a very loose term. It basically means any player who's trained at a club in England for 3 or more years. So it doesn't necessarily... Actually, hang on. I think homegrown is 5 years. No, wait. There's two. One is 3 years before their 21st birthday, and one is 3 years before their 18th birthday, I think. And then there's one where Almunia, goalkeeper, used to play for Arsenal. He qualified for this. So did Mikel Arteta, actually. They never played for Spain. They're both born in Spain, raised in Spain, never played for Spain. And they both lived in England for more than 5 years. So they technically qualified to play for England. I think the rules might have changed since. But, yeah, they technically qualified to play for England. So you got those. The red here is unregistered. So I can't register this player. Oh, you can't even see this. I'm up in the top corner again. Derp. Yeah, this one here. I'll show you this one here. Dennis O'Reilly. So he's unregistered. I can't register him to play for my team. Every player has to be registered unless they're under the age of 21. In which case, you don't have to register them. They can just be picked when or where, because it encourages teams to develop their own players that way. And then you've got other things like INJ here, the red one. That means they're injured. And then if you hover over it, tells you how long they're injured for. There's also suspended. I don't actually have any suspended players right now, but that's also red. You got things like unhappy as well. So if they want to leave for whatever reason, it will come up here. There's some. I think it's like. Oh, this is, yeah, they can play for my under 18s or my under 23s. And then there's somewhere it's oh, there we go. So they're against a teammate, or they can be for a teammate, or they can react to something that I might have said in an interview or a press conference. So there's a lot of in-depth stuff here. This guy supports the teammate, whereas the guy up here was against it. Where was it? One of these guys somewhere. So there's a lot. They're basically player status. And then this one here, you got slight concern about their fitness or their happiness. So in this case, this guy might not get a work permit for his new contract, so he's concerned about that. Wow, these guys have got. Oh yeah, this is transfer stuff as well. So listed, or if they're wanted. Now these guys are wanted, so that's encouraging. They might actually leave. But yeah, there's so many levels. So many levels to Football Manager. Every time you think you've got to the bottom, like a new layer opens up. Yeah, I'll accept these. Just leave my club. What are you on? 13,000 a week, and you are on 15 grand a week. What was I thinking? I don't think this guy has ever. I signed him for £2.6 million. He's done naff all for me. I'm actually angry about that. How did that happen? Alright, so I can't afford... Oh, he only wants 9,000. Okay, fair enough. I'll add a contract extension. I'll do it for a year. He's happy with that. Good stuff. So that was the contract negotiations. There's two types of negotiations in this. There's player sales or player purchases. And then there's contract negotiations. So normally when you want to buy a player, you'll put in a bid or you'll do what I do, which is put in an inquiry. They'll then come back to you with a price. You'll then tell them that they must be joking, and then you negotiate it down. And then if that is accepted, you go into the contract screen, where again, normally they give you an idea as to what they want, and then you tell them to accept what you want or piss off. And then 9 times out of 10 they piss off, because agents. Sometimes you deal with agents, sometimes you deal with the player direct if they don't have an agent. Normally it's an agent though. You also have contract renewals, which is basically the contract negotiation screen again. But you can put in all kinds of clauses, so you can have sell-on fees if you're dealing with teams, or you can have contract extension or bonuses if you're dealing with players. It's really cool. There's a whole economy system built into this game. Fundamentally, this is a sports game, but there's an economic engine built in as well. There's also things like the UK leaving the EU is coded into the game, but because even now we still don't know what exactly is happening, so there's different variants of, I hate using the word, but there's different variants of Brexit. So sometimes in a game, the work permit laws will change, so you are no longer able to sign players from Europe. Sometimes it will change so that you can sign players from Europe, but only under certain conditions. Sometimes it will change so that you can sign any player from Europe and there's no limitations. And sometimes, very rarely, but it does happen, we don't leave the EU. And I've not had that happen yet. I always have the sort of slight limitation one. But it's randomized, so you never know what you're going to get. And there's loads of other randomized events that might happen throughout the game. There isn't anything like inflation, or at least there's nothing. There's no headlines related to inflation. There might be some in negotiations. Like money might change value as the game goes on. Alright, Gray is leaving. I'm actually very happy that that went through. Okay, I said at the start that I wouldn't say it, but I am going to say it. This match that we're about to play, Sheffield United at home, this is going to be the last match of the stream. So any more questions, any more comments, now's the time to get them in. Because by the time this match finishes, it'll probably be coming up to about 20 past. And I want to go downstairs, grab some food, get ready to watch Newcastle beat Chelsea all over again. Can a player become unhappy with his salary contract for financial reasons, even though you gave him or her at least the amount she wanted? Yes. Oh, yes. Also, again, this game is so realistic. Football agents are leeches in real life. They are scum. They're the worst kind of human being, because all they care about is their pay packet. That's why a lot of transfer stories in football these days, it's basically an agent or someone working for the agent who rings up a newspaper and says, hey, they don't say my player, that'll give the game away, but they say, hey, I've heard a rumour that this player wants to move to this club. They basically start these transfer rumours because every time their player moves between clubs, they get a percentage as their fee. That's why I hate agents. I hate anything where people manipulate things in order to try and make money. And that's one of the worst, because football these days, it's becoming an issue. Financial irregularities are becoming an issue. And you look at how much is spent on agent fees every year, not just player transfer fees or wages or bonuses or anything like that, just agent fees. It's like £1 billion a year. It is a joke. And these people don't care about club welfare. They don't care even if their player is happy. They just want to get a deal. They'll make their player unhappy, so they'll move and they'll get the percentage. So in the game, sorry about that rant, in the game, what happens is your player might have a good match and the agent of that player will go, oh, we might be able to get a pay rise out of this. and they'll come to you saying my client wants a new contract. And thankfully, how's that happened? Oh, you are a different person. How's that happened? Can I sign two players with the same name? How cool would that be? Yeah, what you can do when the agent comes to you or the player comes to you and says, can I have a new contract? You can tell them to sack their agent. And a lot of the time they actually do. They say something like, you're right, I have been thinking of a change lately. And they'll just sack their agent and get a new one. And it's so satisfying when that happens. However, it can backfire sometimes, because I did that once. In fact, I did that with JK, my JK. His agent came to me wanting a new contract when he still played for me, and I said no. Told him to sack his agent. He sacked his agent, got a new one, and then the next week his new agent came to me and said, can he have a new contract? And at that point, you can't really... I don't even think the game gives you the option to tell him to sack his agent again. So you just have to either do it or reject it. And in that case, I rejected it, and he ended up signing for Millwall. So I lost out there. But yeah, players can get unhappy for all kinds of reasons. Even things like, if you don't play them enough, they might get unhappy. But also things like, if they're a striker, and you start putting in transfer bids for strikers, they'll get unhappy because they think you're trying to replace them. And sometimes they'll come to you asking for a meeting to talk about it, and they'll outright say, are you trying to replace me? Or if you don't get promoted when you've promised them that you would, or if you... what was the other thing? Oh yeah, if your management... So like if you're struggling in the league, they'll come to you and question your management. Things like that. There's so much. There's so much built into the game. And I can see why people like Quill play this game for the strategy side of it. Because, you got games like Dungeon Crawlers and, Total War and things like that, where it's all about the strategy and it's all about the tactics. This is exactly the same. It's a different skinned version of it, but it's exactly the same at its core. It's a strategy game. Can a player become unhappy without visible reason? Yes. Again, yes. They don't really do it much now. I think they've kind of coded it out of the game. Oh, by the way, I'm 1,100 games in management. We're in the year 2039 here, by the way. I should have mentioned that at the start. But yeah, it used to be if you signed a player from, say, Spain, for example, they might come to you one day and say they're feeling homesick. And you used to be able to allow them to leave, go on an absence of leave for a few weeks to try and get their head sorted. So they might go back to Spain or they might go somewhere else, and when they come back they'll either be happy to stay with you or they'll say that they're still homesick and they'll put in a transfer request. But just like real football, where a player might say they're homesick, what was the best example? There was a player who wanted to leave a club in England because he said he was homesick, and I think he was South American. And instead of moving back to South America, he moved to Juventus, which is definitely in Italy. I'm trying to remember who that was. But I've had that on Foot Manager before as well. A player said they're homesick and they've moved to a country that isn't their home and is in the opposite direction to their home. Yeah, players can get annoyed. Like you saw on the squad list just now. Sometimes like a player will come to me and say that they want first team football. And I'll say no, because I don't want to drop whoever it is that's playing in their position. And half the squad could end up getting pissed off with me because they're friends with that guy and they think I'm being harsh on him. So you can go from having a really good, harmonious squad to having them all hate you from one action. And there's a whole screen here. If I go to the dynamics screen on the left hand side and then go hierarchy, if I click on myself, these guys in green here, these all support me. Anyone in red opposes me, but as you can see here, no one actually opposes me right now, and all the rest are neutral. And then you have the actual hierarchy. You've got the team leaders at the top, so the captains or the longest serving players. Then you've got the highly influential players, the influential players, and then the other players. And then amongst these people, they have cliques. So Tom Russell, who's my backup goalkeeper, he has a lot of friends in the squad because a lot of these players all joined me at the same time. So they all know each other. They all gelled into the squad at the same time. Wright, he's also got people that oppose him and people that are supporting him. So if I do something to annoy Wright, chances are all of these people will also end up getting annoyed with me. And then that will reflect on my hierarchy. So this is quite a new feature. This has only been in the game for, I think this is the 3rd season that they've had this. But it gives a really good insight into looking after your squad, not just physically but mentally as well. Yeah, players can become permanently unhappy. There's another feature where if you sell a player, sometimes you can interact with them and you can say things like, you've been a good player for us, you're welcome back at any time. And I did that to a guy once and he replied with, I will never come back to this club while you're still manager. And I think at that point he's permanently unhappy with me. Like, he hates the ground I walk on. Right, last match. Here we go. So in terms of squad, we'll make one change at the back. Actually, we'll make 2 changes. We'll put DaCosta back. We'll put Neil Mayman in defence because Saunders is suspended. And then we'll put... I don't have any sub centre-backs. That's an oversight. It's a big oversight. Okay, we'll put Rogers on the bench. And then Spencer kind of can play centre-back. Even though it says here he can play centre-backs, this means defender right or central. And then wing-back right, things like that, attacking midfielder right, left. These are the positions that they can play. But the one that they're most competent with is normally the one that... hang on, that's not what I meant to say. So they sometimes players can play in a wide variety of positions, but they can only really specialise in one position. Sometimes if they're really adaptable, they can specialise in 2 or 3, but it's normally just one. And it used to be that position would appear first on the list, but I think they've changed it now to put it in order from the back of the team to the front. But yeah, it can frustrate me sometimes where I go on the scouting window and I see that there's players who can play in multiple positions. Because I like to have a versatile team for exactly what's happening here. If there's injuries or suspensions, chances are someone else in the squad can move into that position. But these days, I sign a player and it turns out they can't play in that position at all. And my scout didn't know enough about them to be able to tell me that. And that's really frustrating. Because I've bought centre-backs in the past who end up being full-backs. Oh, we have an injury already. My striker's going to have to go off. Well, that's perfect. Have you ever reached 100% happiness and satisfaction with your team? Never with the squad, but I have with the board. So the board can make or break you in this game. If you have a really bad time, they can sack you. Unless you're on too high a wages and they can't afford the termination fee. What's the word again? I've just forgotten all words in the English language. Basically, they can't afford to pay you off. Compensation fee. That's the one. They can't afford the compensation fee, so they have to keep you, essentially. Or if they're really rich, they'll sack you on the spot. But I've a few times with this team, with this club in this version of the game, and also in previous versions of Hatfield, because I get them promoted so many times so quickly, I end up 100% happiness for a period of time. And there's an achievement for it. There's a Steam achievement for getting 100% happiness. So I could bulldoze the stadium, and they'll still come out and support me. I might have once pleased the squad to 100%. I know when I did a Journeyman series once, not the one that I actually uploaded on YouTube, but I did another one. I think it was the year before or the year before that. I got to 0% happiness with the board and the squad. I don't think there's an achievement for that, but I certainly got sacked for it. It all just went wrong. I think there was financial issues, which meant I had to sell half the team just to stay afloat, and the other half got pissed off. And then the players I brought in were obviously nowhere near good enough, because 10% of the original budget I had to spend on new players. I think we got relegated twice in a row. The first time they kind of came out and said, okay, things were against us, don't worry about it. But the second time, that was it. I was straight out the door. Literally, as soon as the match finished, I was straight out the door. Suitcase in the boot, off I went. Come on, Hatfield. Get a good result. Don't lose now. Oh, never mind. I think we might lose this match. Oh, wow. So earlier on, when Newcastle scored the winning goal, Gary Lineker posted a video on Twitter of Alan Shearer celebrating it. And apparently, he's had multiple Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown notices. That's DMCA to you and I. He's had takedown notices from that one tweet, and his Twitter account has now been locked because of it. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? You show a video of someone celebrating a goal which just happened to have the match on in the background. Dear me. What does it mean to get sacked? Is that game over? No. No, it's not. In Football Manager, you can manage multiple teams. What you can, so that the maximum number of teams you can manage with a single manager is 2. One club team, so domestic team. You can also manage an international team at the same time. So I could manage Hatfield and England at the same time, for example. But if you get sacked, you become unemployed, and you can... Then you have 2 options. You can either unsettle a manager at an existing club and get them sacked and take their job, or you can just apply to open positions. You can only apply to manager jobs though, so you can't like become an assistant manager and work your way up or anything. And then you might get an interview, and if you pass the interview, you'll get offered the job. So when I do a journeyman series, journeyman basically means you manage lots of different clubs as a single manager. So the one I did on YouTube, I started off at Llandudno in Wales. Lasted like 3 months, I think, before they sacked me. Then I moved to, I think it was Northern Ireland for a year, maybe 2 years. Then I moved to Malaysia for 2 or 3 years. And then I moved back to the Republic of Ireland. So I actually did that series to try and learn about football around the world. And I think I kind of did. The problem with the game there is, though, is it doesn't fully simulate non-popular leagues, let's say. So the Malaysian league is in the game, but it's not exactly mainstream. But what you can do, if you've had enough of a save and you just want to outright get rid of it, is you can set your manager to retire. So your save ends, you go back to the menu screen. But you can also resign from jobs. So if you're in a job and you're not particularly happy, you can resign. Or you can just apply for open jobs, although your board can get a bit miffed with you if you do that. Sometimes you can get... This is weird, it's kind of a paradox. If you apply for jobs while you're employed, you can get sacked because your board are not happy that you were looking to leave the club. So they didn't want you to leave, so their response is to sack you. Even on FIFA these days. On FIFA, if you got sacked, it used to be game over. Whereas now, you can just become a manager somewhere else. Come on, Hatfield. That's a good header. Hit it, hit it. Oh, not straight at him. Yeah, I'm going to focus on the match now. I've not really talked about my team at all in this. It's good. Normally when I do a Football Manager stream, I spend like the first half an hour introducing or reintroducing the squad, talking about the tactics and all that kind of thing. Whereas tonight, I'm just focusing on the questions, chatting, not really focusing much on the football. Do you know what? I can't even remember what the result was in the last game. Did we win it? I think we did. Was it 2-1? Might have been. I can't actually. I cannot remember. Oh, good goal. What is the highest score you've ever got in a single FM match? 13-0 springs to mind. I think that was in a friendly. Where I played a friendly against a non-league team and I put out my Premier League side. And we just absolutely trounced them. I think in the league, like in an actual competitive league match or cup match, I think it was 8-0. If you go back and watch the original You Don't Win Anything with Kids series, which I think was Football Manager 2013, I did that on. I got quite a lot of high-scoring matches because my squad was way too good for the league I was in. I won't. This Football Manager 2020 series is going to be based on that Don't Win Anything with Kids series, but I'm not going to do what I did there, which was give myself a huge amount of money and really, really good players. Basically what I'm going to do this time around is, before I start the game, I'm going to go into the editor and tweak Hatfield Town's stats so that they have a better youth academy. And the goal of the series is to do... Have you ever seen the film Moneyball or read the book that it's based on? It's going to be that kind of principle of don't spend more than I've got. Make sure that all the money I make per year, at least 50 or 60 or whatever % of it, is saved and not spent on renewing the squad, and to try and actually build a club without just throwing money at the problem. So developing my own youth players, or signing youth players, or signing players who other clubs don't rate highly enough, who actually are underrated players. That kind of strategy. That was a bad goal to concede. Yeah, to try and sort of slip under the radar with my team and play well without necessarily having the best squad. But yeah, You Don't Win Anything with Kids. It was a good idea at the time. It was based on a quote from Alan Hansen, even though I misquoted him at the time. What he said was, you can't win anything with kids, and I put it as, you don't win anything with kids. But I just had a team of like 16, 17-year-olds and went from the lowest league in the game at the time, so I didn't have the extended database, right the way up to the championship. Oh wow, I'm just reading a BBC article. Every week they do a 5 things you didn't know in the Football League. And there's a bit about Stevenage. Stevenage had only scored 4 goals in their past 13 League 2 matches, but they matched that tally in 90 minutes on Saturday, thrashing Cambridge 4-0. Well, we're off the bottom of League 2. We're now second bottom in League 2. Alright, Kurt, no problem, bud. Thanks for coming in. Have a good day tomorrow as well, down in Wales. Score-wise, what is the biggest loss you've ever had in an FM match? In terms of number of goals I've lost by, I've had 6-0, 7-0. I think I had a 9-0 once, where I got absolutely trounced. And that was I think I was Hatfield in non-league still. And I managed to fluke my way to the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and I got like Man City or Man United, and they put out their strongest team. They just wiped the floor with me. But in terms of the number of goals scored against me, I think I've had like 10 or 12 before now as well, where I've just tried to do friendlies to generate a lot of money for the team. And again, just been absolutely trounced. Have you ever got 0-0? Yeah, all the time. Haven't we had a couple in this stream? 0-0s. Yeah, it happens a lot. This team I've got here, they have a real good habit of drawing matches, whether it's 0-0, 1-1 or 2-2. They always somehow manage to find a way to draw. I went 6 matches unbeaten before this stream started, and all 6 of them were 2-2 draws. I think 0-0 is the worst scoreline in football. A lot of people say this. Winning is great, losing is bad, and drawing is worse than losing. What is the biggest rivalry you've ever had? Ooh. I've had a few. There is a mechanic in Football Manager where if you manage Liverpool, for example, no matter who the Man United manager is, it automatically says you have a rivalry with them. You could be the best of friends with them for all you know. You might have, because sometimes if you're in the game for a long time, your coaches or even your ex-players can become managers themselves. So you could have like your club captain who's been with you for 15 years. They might retire from playing, become a manager, manage your rival team, and then suddenly you have a rivalry with them. It's a bit of a broken system in that respect. But yeah, the biggest rivalry I've had, I mean, in real life, I'm a Stevenage fan, and there's a few teams we don't like. Luton, MK Dons, Cambridge, Woking. There's ones like that. And then Newcastle, obviously Middlesbrough and Sunderland spring to mind. But in real life, I also hate Liverpool, Man United, and Tottenham. Those are for me personally, they're the 3 worst teams in England for some of the things they can get away with. But yeah, in the game, rivalries kind of generate as you go through. So you might have one season where you and another team are competing for the top position, and then that's it. Your team has a rivalry with them from forevermore. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example. I've had rivalries with Stevenage when I've managed Hatfield because they're a local team, so sometimes it puts it down as a local derby. But in this save, Stevenage used to be a parent club of mine, so they used to loan me players. But then when I went above them in the leagues, I now loan them players. They're an affiliate club of mine. Did you know that in ELO rating systems, or ELO, is it ELO or ELO? Rating systems, think chess, go, etc. A tie 0-0 will change your ELO rating slightly, just like, but not to the extent of a win or loss. It does that in football as well, because football you're measured by win rate. So if you play 3 matches, you win 1, you draw 1, you lose 1, your win rate is 33%. If you then play another match and draw it, your win rate goes down to 25%. So it has a huge effect in that respect. My win rate in this save is going to be probably 50-60% because of how long I've been in charge for, how many matches I've played, 1,100 in this case, and also the fact that I went from non-league to the championship in almost consecutive seasons. So you have to win a lot of matches in order to do that. Then there's also one of the interesting things in football. So Liverpool last season in the Premier League, they only lost once all season, but they came second. Whereas Man City lost 4 times, and they won the league. And the reason that happened was because Liverpool just kept drawing matches, whereas City kept winning. So every time Liverpool drew a match, Man City would win it. Plus, the one loss that Liverpool had last season was against Manchester City, and that ultimately decided the league title. So you do get these strange instances. Come on, Hatfield. I need you to win this. Do it for the fans. Oh wow, my right mid is basically hobbling on one leg. Where's my cursor? There it is. Have you ever came up undefeated across the whole season? Yes. Yeah. When Newcastle got relegated to the Championship the first time in 2009, I actually played Football Manager the next season, as I said earlier, to try and right the wrong, to get back in the Premier League. Not only did I go unbeaten that season in the Championship, I won every single match. And there's something in Football Manager called save scumming, which is where if you lose a match or if something happens, like if your star player gets injured, you can reload the save to just before that happened. So if it's a match, you can basically replay the match. And if it's an injury, the injury tends to be generated just before the message appears on your screen. So if you reload a save, even if it's from the in-game day before, you can remove your player getting injured. I managed to win every match in a season and get Newcastle promoted without save scumming. So I never reloaded a save. I just won every match legitimately. And I wish I'd recorded it. This was before I did YouTube, so I don't have a record of it, sadly. Although, the two videos I talked about that were on my channel before I started uploading regularly, one was called That's a Wrap, and that's the thing I was talking about earlier. The other was a goal that I scored in Football Manager with that Newcastle team. It was when I was back in the Premier League. But I signed Ivan Rakitic. This was when he was an unknown, basically. I found out he had a really good strike on him. But yeah, it was I think I just uploaded it straight from the game onto my YouTube channel. It's him scoring. I think it's either a long-range free kick or it's like a long-range shot. But yeah, that was from that Newcastle team. Yeah, in real life, Arsenal have the Invincibles. They went a whole season. They went 46 league matches unbeaten. I think like 12 of them were draws though, so it sounds less amazing when you put it that way. But across that 46 games, 38 of them were in a single season. So they are the only team in Premier League history to have gone an entire season unbeaten. But yeah, since that Newcastle team, I've never gone an entire season unbeaten. I've always had one match where I've lost, and normally it's because, especially with Hatfield in the early years, I'll win the league, and then for the last few games I'll just play youth team, because at that point I just want to see who's good to bring through for next season, and chances are I'll lose those matches, but I've already won the league title, so I'm not as bothered then. Come on, Hatfield. Oh crap, just realised I'm missing the start of match of the day. Hopefully, if my brother is watching this, they're nice enough to have not started watching it and we'll watch it together. But chances are that's not the case. Ugh. My players are so wasteful right now. They keep missing good chances. Or they'll have a chance to cross and they won't. And that's not the match engine being broken. That's just my players not having good stats. There's things in the game like you have crossing ability, you have dribbling ability, you also have composure, which kind of goes towards your dribbling, your passing, your shooting. all that kind of thing is affected by your composure. So you might have really, really good shooting stats, but if you have no composure, if you're one-on-one with a goalkeeper, you'll miss because you can't hack it, essentially. Too many people look at one stat without looking at the rest. Have you ever went bankrupt? In Football Manager, yeah. Your team can go into administration. I actually had... I wasn't sacked. This is the weird thing. I wasn't sacked. The game never said I was sacked. What it said was my team went into administration, and this was halfway through a season, so my contract wasn't up. It shouldn't have been up until the summer, but because the team went into administration and the money was so low, they released me from my contract. So they again, it never said sacked. I personally think I was sacked because of the finances. They couldn't afford to keep me. But what it said was they terminated my contract because they couldn't afford to keep me. So I personally count that as being sacked. But the finance issue, normally in Football Manager, if the club goes bankrupt, it's the manager's fault because they've overspent. But on that one, the board decided to... I think they decided to build new training facilities or something, but that we didn't have the budget for it. So they took out a huge loan, which they then had to pay back. And I think they took out another loan, and it just spiraled. And at that point, you know, I couldn't afford to sign good players, so we got relegated. I'm trying to remember what team it was. Might have been Whitehawk. I think it was Whitehawk. And I have no ill will towards Whitehawk in real life. I think they're a great team. They've had a few headline moments over the last few years. But that was a really strange incident to happen. It's the only time I've ever seen it happen in Football Manager. Yeah, your team can go through administration. You get a points deduction. You get a transfer embargo, so you can't sign players. You can still sell, but you can't sign. And you might get sacked because the board are annoyed that you've taken the club into administration. And then normally once you're in administration, someone new has to come in and buy the club. Because you can have... your club can be bought and sold by different people throughout your time there. Sometimes you might get sacked because new people come in that want to hire their own manager. So you might be doing perfectly well. I've seen stories of people who were top of the league, pretty much nailed on to win the league, and new owners came in and sacked them because they wanted to bring their own man in. It is crazy, but it happens in real life too. So they're accurate with it, at least. Have you ever been fined? If so, what is the biggest fine you ever had and why? I don't know what it is for managers. Players, the maximum you can fine them is 2 weeks' wages. And I think in real life it's 4 weeks' wages, but you have to have special permission from the Professional Footballers Association to be able to do that. Normally it's for a breach of discipline. But in the game you can fine players for poor performances or for getting sent off or for missing training, whatever it might be. That was a really bad match to end the stream on, by the way, but I am going to have to end, sadly. Managers can get fined if a refereeing decision goes against you. You can speak out about it in the press, and sometimes the FA will charge you for bringing the game into disrepute, which is kind of funny, but also kind of annoying. But sometimes the FA actually come out and admit that you were right, and that's a very rare occurrence. Happens once in a blue moon, basically. But yeah, I'm going to wrap the stream up here, guys. So thank you very much for coming in and watching. Thank you for everyone who posted questions beforehand. We did get through them all, didn't we? Yeah, we did. And also thank you guys for coming in the chat. Thank you to James, to Ben, to George, to Kurt. I think that was everyone. Apologies if I have missed anyone. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen with the stream. Right now, I'm not really feeling it. Mainly because I don't want it to be a boring stream. I want there to be some kind of gameplay or some kind of footage in the background. Maybe I'll just, I don't know. Right now I'm thinking it's not going to happen. But you never know. Last question to finish off then from James. What is the strangest match you've ever had? I've had a match before where I've had 3 players sent off and the opposition's had 2. That's always interesting. So in football, the rule is you have to have... let me do the maths. You have to have 7 players on the pitch for a match to be able to go ahead. So if you have 5 red cards in a match, or if you lose 5 players during the match, the match is postponed. I think in that instance, the team that has less than 7 players then has to concede the match 3-0 to the opposition. I believe that to be the rule. The match ends anyway if more than 5 players get sent off. So on FIFA, I used to do pro clubs with my mate, and we used to just try and get players sent off, so the match would get postponed, even though we ended up losing because of it. It was just funny. Football Manager, that's never happened to me, but I have had 3 players sent off before, and yeah, I think at that point I was chasing a league title as well, so that's incredibly frustrating. One of those players got released. This was back when I was in non-league, so you can cancel a player's contract essentially. You can just show them the door. So I did that. I was angry. But yeah, thanks for coming in, guys. Thanks for chatting in the stream. It's been awesome. Assume for now that tomorrow's stream isn't happening. If I can think of a way between now and then to make it happen. It's meant to be, I think it's 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, so if it is happening, I'll let you know. But assume for now that it isn't. But I will, all those questions I'll either put into other videos in the future. Like I said, the Euro Truck videos, it might go into them. Or I'll do another stream in the future where I answer those questions. If you do have any more questions, the Q&A chat on my Discord is going to become just a general questions chat. It won't be 1K anymore, it'll just be Q&A. So if you have any more questions, there's a good place to put them, or comment down below videos. But if you want them to be particularly noticed, then Discord is the best place to go. But yeah, let me do my end of video spiel. Let me actually get this right for once. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you've enjoyed the series so far. Drop some comments down below. Tactic advice for Football Manager is always appreciated. Beyond that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.